Okay, folks, you're going to have a seat, please. You folks that are standing up, you're going to have a seat. Folks, you're going to have to find a seat, please. Folks, you need to find a seat. Gentlemen, you need to find a seat. Need to find a seat. Hold on.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Welcome, everyone, to the July 10, 2018 Agenda Committee meeting. The committee will come to order. Have all members present signed into the meeting. Madam Clerk, are you ready to report tonight's attendance?
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 members present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Commissioner Farmer has a scheduling conflict. Before we get started, I want to clarify one thing for the members and for the public that is here. The reason that this committee exists, this committee is a committee of the whole, the Agenda Committee, created in the place of a work session. It has no power to approve or not approve any resolution. This committee votes to send or not send items forward to the agenda of the Board of Commissioners meeting for consideration, period. It may also refer to other committees, but lacks the authority to approve or not approve resolutions. Creating the Agenda Committee allows the commissioners and members of the public 9 days in which to read the upcoming items on the commission agenda. All the current information related to each item is included in the packet and available for public inspection. Many items sent forward are not approved, even though a majority voted to forward them. The chair will now stand for a motion to set the agenda.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner French moves. Commissioner Bennett seconds. Are the members ready for the question? Please vote. Yes to set the agenda. Vote no not to set the agenda. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, there are 18 yes votes.
That item is approved. It will be, our agenda is set. Next item on the agenda is item B. Public input on items on the agenda. Please raise your hand if you want to speak to an item on the agenda. I'll start in the front right here. Folks, please come to the podium. State your name and the district you live in and what item on the agenda you wish to speak on. Hold on just a second. There we go.
Can you hear me? My name is Bibi Alley. I live in 4492 Wheeler Road, Louisville, Tennessee. And I wrote some notes down, so bear with me. I'm speaking on the Blackberry development.
Hold on just a second.
You speak into the microphone, please.
Like that?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you, because it's very hard to hear you if you're not into the microphone.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'm going to read from my notes, okay? I grew up in Alcoa, and I've driven the Little River Road like a million times. Driven it, biked it, bladed it, and I'm really concerned about what's going to happen if Blackberry gets its rezoning. I'm worried about the river, I'm worried about Chahowie Mountain, I'm worried about the national park, and I do not want the peaceful side of the Smokies to become Pigeon Forge too. I've spoken with many, many people up there about this proposed development, and most have no clue about what's going on. They've heard nothing about it. No information that I know of was forthcoming until Kathy Puckett brought it out into the public eye. The population of Blount County in 2017 was about 130,000. The first town hall had about 100 plus people. The second Blackberry sponsored meeting had roughly the same. So, information and the ability for the public to comment and ask questions has only been reached out to 0.15% of the population of Blount County. That's 0.15%. I work as a nurse as a profession, and my profession is based on evidence-based research. And you guys are wanting to put this through without getting more questions and answers out to the public, getting more information, more data collected. Can you imagine if my profession did the same? You would not want to come to UT Hospital. Just saying. Also, I want to know, why have you guys not been out in the public eye having questions and answers on something as life-changing as this? This is going to change communities from Alcoa to Maryville all the way to the mountains. And only one commissioner, Mr. Carver there, came to the meeting at Rocky Branch. All others feigned ignorance, claiming the majority of the people want this rezoning to happen, and also they wondered, what is the fuss about? And also they said they did not come because they didn't receive an invitation. It was a town hall, and 100 plus people of your constituents and Mr. Carver showed up. I'm just saying. And also at the Blackberry sponsored meeting, everyone received an invitation. So I heard 5 of you did show up, 5 out of 21 commissioners came. So if you have forgotten, you're elected by the people to know what all the fuss is about. It is about the changing ways of life, massive traffic problems, light, noise, water, soil pollution, the destruction of our ground wells, trash. It's about private investors using dark money from overseas that the Beals would be beholden to. Even though they want to be good stewards of the land, I don't think the investors from Asia I think they could care less, the investors from Asia, not the Beals. I urge you to vote no on sending this motion forward until you have more information. We need more public meetings and information sharing. 5 months is not even a blink of an eye in the life of a mountain. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Folks, please hold down your applause, please. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay. I'll start in the front and work my way toward the back. There are a lot of hands. So identify yourself, state your name, district you live in, please, and what item you want to speak on.
My name is Barbara Clinton-Smith, and we're out in Saddle Ridge on East Millers Cove Road, and we're some of those Yankees that came down 20 years ago, and we love it here. But my concern, if you've ever driven on East Millers Cove Road, it's not even wide enough for a dividing line down the middle. And it's quite often that you'll meet cars that are from out of state, and they're taking their half of the road out of the middle, and it's pretty dangerous. I'm also concerned that it's commercial up by 321, and we don't have a problem with a little bit of commercial up there, but for 5,000 acres to all of a sudden be commercial could be a big problem. I've heard that they say, well, most of the land can't be built on, it's too steep. But if you look at some of the cottages and rentals and the rope courses in Pigeon Forge, they're built on just that type of land that is getting used commercially for that, and I'm worried about that. Also, in the future, they may be trying to be good neighbors and keep the buildings down, but what about in the future when other people are in charge of it? It could be major changes, and so I hope that you'll maybe get out and drive that road and see what, we're really concerned about the safety. There's 2 restaurants that are going to serve alcohol that are being developed now. But if you get more than that on there could be some drunk drivers on that road that isn't even safe for, non-drunk drivers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Raise your hand, please. Yes, sir, right here in the second row. State your name, district you live in, the item you want to speak on, please.
I'm Leonard Hudgens in Saddle Ridge, 2115 Journey's End Road. And I'd like to talk about the width of the roads versus the amount of traffic that's on them now and in the future. But Saddle Ridge has about over 70 homes and can have up to 180 or so. The homestead that's right next to us can have about 300 homes. According to the county records, that would put average daily traffic at over 5,000, which would require a road width of over 21 feet. There's no place on East Miller's Cove Road where it is at that width. Most places are, well, right at the north entrance of our subdivision, it's only 15.9 or 15 feet 9 inches wide. I took several measurements along East Miller's Cove. There's another one that's 17 feet wide, another one that's 16 feet 17 inches. The loop road that is being used by Blackberry Farms for many of their trucks and stuff is at 14 feet 8 inches wide, and the other side is 14.2 inches, 14 feet 2 inches wide. I measured the width of my mid-cap or mid-size Toyota Camry. It is 6 feet wide. You need about 2 feet from the edge of the road to be for a safe driving distance. You also need 2 feet from the center of the road. So that means that one lane should be at least 10 feet wide. The next other for oncoming traffic another 10 feet, so at least 20 feet wide. And as you can see, 14.2 doesn't even come close. And those are big trucks are coming down those roads, and right now, any meeting of oncoming traffic, one has to either get off to the, well, both have to get off to the, as far as side as they can, or go off on the shoulder where there is no shoulder. There's supposed to be 2-foot shoulder on each side, and that's a good case of having an accident, or otherwise have a head-on collision. This is a case through here. The county recommended by 2015 that East Miller's Cove be 30 feet wide, and it doesn't even come close. It's just over half that. I recommend that there be no additional.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Sir, please state your name, district you live in, please.
Commissioners, I'm Dr. Philip Hoffman. I'm a retired cardiologist from Blount Hospital, and I've been living in Wallen for 24 years, looking right at Three Sisters. Last Saturday, I went to the Blackberry meeting and heard an impassioned statement made by their marketing director. And she said in so many words, "We're all Blount County, been here for generations, proud to be here, happy to." Sorry?
Yes,
Sorry?
you're a little closer to you. Thank you.
Their marketing director said, we've been here for generations. We're proud to share East Tennessee with the rest of the world, and we have your best interest at heart. I'm sure she was sincere, but there are no guarantees or insurances at all that Blackberry Mount will remain in the hands of those we think we know. If the 5,500 acres under consideration are rezoned PRRD, property value will soar. Instead of simply allowing multifamily dwellings and churches and family businesses and the like, among the changes they can build resort facilities, functions, hotels, motels. They can build a brewery. We need a brewery in Walland. The language is so vague that it can be construed to allow Six Flags Over Walland in our backyard. It's also an effective sales pitch to sell the property and development rights to Marriott, Hilton, or the Wyndham Hotel Group. If you think that the poor turnouts in January and March for your meetings was a sign that the public didn't care, you're wrong. Look around. Nobody knew what was happening. Whether the commission followed the legalities of public notice or not, the public didn't hear you, as evidenced by the turnout at the town hall meeting, the Blackberry meeting last Saturday, and tonight. If I were discussing a proposed medical procedure with one of you all, and I spoke so inaudibly that you couldn't hear me, is it your fault you didn't understand the details? No, it would be mine for not making sure you understood. So here we are, considering huge changes in policies that guide the development of Blount County and the local culture that characterizes the peaceful side of the Smokies. And we seem to be in an altogether big hurry to do it. I ask the commissioners, have you spoken with your constituents? If so, how many? This is important, and it's not about getting reelected. It's about whether your face and your name will be forever linked to a massive personality change that's about to befall East Blount County if this rezoning is passed. I'd beg you to revamp the proposal to rezone just 40 acres in the Wallen Center. I assure you Blackberry Mountain can afford the additional 30 acres to make up the necessary 40. Then before we give Blackberry the key to the county, have them make some concessions, starting with adequate roadways to their property, effective water runoff control from the denuded land. Look at the Blount County policies adopted by the Planning Commission 1999 and
Thank
2008.
you, sir. Thank you for your
Thank
comments,
you.
sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Gentleman right here, I think it's the third row here. I'm trying to work my way back, folks. Please hold your applause. Folks, you need to find a seat. Ma'am, you need to find a seat somewhere. There's a couple of seats up here. Yes, sir. Please state your name, district you live in, what item.
Eddie Hops, District 8, 2203 Turkey Roost Road. I want to speak about the roads and just the issues that come along with it. A lot of people have already talked about the roads. It is very dangerous, and I can tell you that somebody's going to die on that road. If not one, multiple people. It is very dangerous. One day we were on our way out, and a little white pickup truck came flying down the hill, didn't even look to see if anybody was coming out of one of the entrances. We're pretty sure it was Friday, and it was pretty sure somebody had already been drinking. So we've got a lot of issues. The other thing I wanted to make you aware of is there's a teacher at Walland, and one of their pastimes is counting the number of trucks that go up the hill in the morning. Sorry. One of their pastimes is counting the number of trucks that go up in the morning. Well, I leave at all times of the morning, sometimes as early as 4:30 in the morning. Even at 4:30 in the morning, I've got traffic coming up the mountain at all hours of the morning. And to think that the kids are counting the number of trucks, that's pretty amazing. But the long and the short of it is, there's a lot of things that are going on, and when you're trying to sell it with jams and jellies, somebody's drinking the Kool-Aid. So just very, very concerned. If you had to drive the road every day with the people that are on it, that are coming up or down the road in oversized vehicles, it's pretty scary. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Ma'am, state your name, district you live in, and item number, please.
I'm concerned about Blackberry rezoning. I live in District 9.
State
My
your-
name is Frances Bunzy. I'm also concerned about the roads. Has anybody considered what would happen if something caught on fire? Things would be destroyed before a truck could even get up the road. Okay. And they address that pretty well. This is what I'm concerned about. I am not against companies moving forward. I do not like the rush of the companies moving forward. But cannibalizing our mountains just to make an extra buck is a sin against the legacy of our children and our grandchildren. Shame on you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. State your name, district, and item number.
My name is Rhea Morgan. I live in Wallen, District 8, and I'm speaking on the rezoning request for Blackberry Mountain. I also would like to ask this committee to table the item and to not move it forward. I think there's a lot that needs to be considered here, including if anyone else approached you and said that they owned 5,500 acres in this county and they wanted it all rezoned just for the sake of commercially developing 10, what would you think? Would you question their motive? Would you scratch your head? Would you probably say no? But if you say yes to this party, then you've set a precedent, and you're going to find it much harder for other folks to be told no when they're actually wanting to rezone less and commercialize more. If you had been in Walland on Saturday morning, where there were 100 to 120 people present and 30 to 40 cars, you would have seen gridlock in Walland. Walland looked like Gatlinburg on a fall day Saturday morning. Studies need to be done about the impact of commercialization there, since part of the property's on floodplain and there's very little available land for off-street parking, the needs for turn lanes, stoplights, etc. If you were to look at this county's own mountain area planning guidelines that were developed in 2007-2008, this rezoning request is not in compliance with those guidelines. We know that Blount Partnership is trying to develop businesses to come into this area who pay a living wage, and that definition in Blount County is $43,000 per year. We heard on Saturday that many of the jobs at Blackberry Mountain that are already going to be approved because of the special exemptions are not meant to pay living wage. And we can certainly surmise that those retail jobs in a commercialized Walland are not going to pay a living wage. The intentions of owners are good, but owners change and intentions change, and we've already seen that because none of these items were brought forward when they originally developed a plan to purchase this land. On Saturday, we heard the statement that said, "Isn't it great that Walland is mentioned in the same sentence as Vail, Aspen, and Nantucket in the travel magazines?" Well, if you're a five-star person, yeah, you probably like that. But if I wanted to live in Vail and in Aspen, I'd move to Vail and Aspen. And I have lived on Nantucket, and I can tell you that as a local, the only time we could enjoy our island is when the tourists left and the millionaires departed and winter set in. And I really don't want to see that happen to Walland. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Who's next? Raise your hand if you're next. Yes, ma'am, right there. Please come forward. State your name, district, and item you want to speak on.
My name is Julie Brown. I'm in District 8. I live on West Millers Cove Road, and I would like to talk about Blackberry Mountain. First of all, I want to thank Kathy Puckett for not only reaching out and listening to us, but giving us a voice at a town hall meeting. That's what our county commissioners should do. Thank you, Kathy. You have my vote. I appreciate the fact that Blackberry is not building to their capacity and they have put a lot of their property into a conservancy. I sincerely thank them for that. My fear is that if this rezoning passes, it will just be the beginning. First, Blackberry Farm got rezoned, and now they want to rezone their mountain. Where will it end? They'll always want more, and they have the money to back them. We all noticed at Saturday's meeting that they wouldn't divulge who their investors are, and there's a reason for that. They have money, and money is power. So the question is, how does this rezoning benefit Blount County? The way I see it, it doesn't. It benefits Blackberry. This is a big vote. This could be a tipping point for us. If you rezone, you'll be opening the door for not just Blackberry, but for whatever else is to come later on. Do we still want to be the peaceful side of the Smokies or not? We need to plan for the future now. As our commissioners, you represent us, not Blackberry and their money, but us, the people who voted for you. And I think we're all aware that an election is coming up, just saying. So I beg you, please do what's right for our county, because I'm just afraid eventually this will no longer be Blount County. It will become Blackberry County. God forbid. Please vote with your conscience.
Thank you, ma'am. Who's next? Raise your hand if you're next. I'm trying to work my way to the back, folks. I'm not. Please state your name, ma'am, and your district and the item.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Gail Palmer. I live at 245 Cooper Hollow Road in Townsend. I have deep roots in this area. My mother was Mary Jane Sparks. Her father was John Marion Sparks and mother Elizabeth Schuler. They lived for a time in Cades Cove in Nathan and Jane Potter Sparks' home. They were their great-grandparents at the time. Their connections, their family connections, encouraged me to learn more about my heritage in this area, and so I began writing books about it. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's the attachment we have, I include myself in this, to our heritage and to our mountains. These are some of the oldest mountains in the world. They even found a fossil on the side of Chilhowie Mountain, which is the name I know it by, not Blackberry Mountain. And so that should tell you, that fossil was thousands of years old. That should tell you that these mountains have been here a long, long time. However, I'm fearful that this particular mountain range may not last a whole lot longer because of the resort zoning that they have. And to me, that's very disappointing. That zoning is not available anywhere else in this country. Only here, only for Blackberry, you know. And from what I can tell as I read through that, it seems that that just gives them free will to do whatever they want. If they get this resolution passed for the full amount of acreage that they want, then they will feel free to do anything they want. What I would like to see is for them to withdraw their request at this moment and work on seeking to tell the public, let the public know what they're planning to do, and ask for the rezoning of just 40 acres. 40 acres is all they need. They don't really need to go beyond that. It would give them time to talk to the public, to be more transparent in their plans and what they are thinking about doing, what they really are planning to do, and try to address some of the issues that the public have, not just sort of cast them aside and pat them on their head. I mean, you know, we get enough of that, I guess, sometimes, and it's truly not necessary. We're adults. We know what that we need to bring new industry in, but I would say certainly not industry that does not have their workers offer the workers a living wage.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Anyone else? Come forward, state your name, district, and the item.
Kathleen Puckett, 245 Cooper Hollow Road, District 8. My hope is that this zoning proposal will go back to the Planning Commission. That came up at the last meeting. Given the public response at the 2 town halls, and they will relook, because I'm not in favor of rezoning all the land. If Walland is truly what they want to develop, then there is no need to include the entire mountain. Blackberry, as I've been told, already has a green light for development that they are doing on the mountain. It's already in progress. It will happen. They will open in 2019 as planned. If there are no additional plans for the mountain, then why the rush? Now, I know the technical part of that answer, because I know it. But I believe we need to relook at it. And Eats on the Creek, which is part of the Walland Center part, is in the flood zone, also in Walland. I didn't realize, but at the Saturday meeting, someone came up and told to me that they remember when this whole area was flooded. And so I looked on the flood map, and that part of these parcels are in the flood zone. Don't know how that affects whatever we're doing. So I really would ask that we don't hurry this through. There are precedents set by you all where you have listened to public input. True Purpose Ministries in 2013, the public did not want them to come into their area in District 8, I believe. It might have been in Franch's district. You could correct me on that. But there was public outcry, and True Purpose Ministries, that does really good work for the community, had to move. And they had, I believe the mayor was able to give them a stay of execution of an extra 30 or 60 days to move to another area, which they are over on Morganton Way. So you have in the past changed your mind about things. You have done other things. When the Wrath of God resolution was brought to the agenda committee, this was canceled. It didn't even happen. So you have in the past done other things. It isn't like it has never happened before, folks. It has happened. So please consider it. Consider it going back to the Planning Commission now that people are aware of what's going on. Consider rethinking this. I know that your job is to get it, but a motion was made by Rick Carver last month to rethink this and postponed it for a month. Another motion can be made tonight. And I encourage someone in this great commission to have the courage to make a motion to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please. State your name, district, and item number.
Marilyn Finley, District 8, rezoning Blackberry Mountain. I join with many others with confusion. Why is it necessary to include all of the conservation easement with this rezoning? I am not comforted by the conservation easement being in perpetuity. I haven't had a lot of time to research this, but I did read the conservation easement papers, and I'm just going to read something. It says, the boundaries of the building area may be modified by mutual agreement of holder and the legal owner or owners of that portion of the conservation area which is the subject of the boundary line modification at the time of modification. Now, I don't exactly know what that means, but I am not comforted when they say the conservation easement is in perpetuity, so please give us more time to understand what is really going to be involved with this zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir, right. Come forward, please. State your name, district, and the item you wish to speak on.
My name is Phil Young, and I live in District 8, and I'd like to talk about the rezoning of Wallen. First, I want to thank all of you for being here and for doing what you're doing and listening to us. And I realize since the town hall meeting, when I first really found out about this, that it's actually a really complicated problem. There's a lot of issues in there. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of people's lives. There's emotions. And so I think first that Blackberry needs to do transparency. They've got their plans. They need to put those out there for everybody to see them and everybody to take a look at them and see what they have in mind. Like a good example would be the parking lot for 200 cars. And it's going to be there, and it's going to be right next to somebody's house, and nobody really wants that. So we want to see what else people have in mind. That's probably why people are so emotional about this. So transparency, I'd like to see the process slowed down so that you can think about it, we can think about it, BlackBerry can think about it. They probably didn't know that people were going to be so emotional. And I think that they should sit down and talk about how people are feeling, and the people should see how they're feeling. I worry about the future. I think BlackBerry does a good job, and they probably will do a good job, but what if they're not there? Giving a carte blanche rezoning seems like it opens it up for anybody else to do what they want. And they also stated Saturday that they have given $1.5 million in the last few years out to people. I teach school at Walland Elementary School. I'm the guy who sits there and counts the trucks that go by. And we sit there on the playground and watch them. There's one a minute. One big truck a minute goes by that school from before we get there till way after we leave. And one of those trucks was a loaded cement truck that ended up overturning. Don't you hate it when that happens? So I would like for BlackBerry, they say that they're good neighbors. They've done nothing for our school whatsoever. And I would like for a board to be formed. I think this would be a good idea for a board of like somebody from the school, there's churches around there, there's business owners, and there's homeowners. A board, and they get together and come up with ideas of what BlackBerry could do to help that community if they really want to be a good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Did I?
That's good. Go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
State your name,
Am I in
please.
the right place? My name is Ann Wolf, and I'm in Section 8, I believe, on Husky Branch Road. And I'm a songwriter and chaplain for God and Country. And the first thing I wanted to do was to thank our veterans and first responders for having secured our freedom so that we could come here and do this in this type of forum. And also thank all of you, because it's not easy to be a politician. My father was a congressman that served years ago and a World War II vet, and it's not an easy thing, and I thank you for that. And I do support free enterprise and the right to pursue happiness, which our Constitution secures us, but I support in this case 40 acres. So that we can think long and hard before making permanent changes to this area. Others have been speaking and will continue to speak very well on the subject of logistics and safety and taking time to evaluate and study nature and all of the things that we need to think about. So what I'll do with my minutes is I will speak of the wisdom that our Native American community has left us. Chilhowie Mountain is a Native American name. And in the Native American tradition, any decision that is made by considering the effect unto the seventh generation, not just today, so that any decision that's made, be it small or especially decisions such as this that have to do with changing the majesty of God's gift in the form of this beautiful natural resource in our mountains. These are things to definitely consider very soberly and use that wisdom. Jesus Christ also talks about loving God and loving others, and we must take that into consideration as well. I have a song, and I will give you just one verse. What will we leave for the seventh generation? By the way that we live and the choices we are making. What is the way that we honor our ancestors that gave us life so we can leave upon the earth our blessing? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. By the way, Ms. Sudoff, I'm sure that Mr. Young counts those on his own time. Anyone else?
Me.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Right here. I just wanted, don't start my time yet, the WBIR reporter asked if I could put this on the podium because they're having trouble picking up from the microphone. Is that all right? Is it okay?
It's fine with
Okay.
me.
Just wanted you to know what it is. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. State your
My name
please.
is Donna Edwards. I'm in District 8 in Walland. And I'm discussing the rezoning proposal for Three Sisters and Walland. My husband and I have been residents of Walland for 23 years. I dearly love this area and have a lot to say, so need to speed read to get it all out in the allotted time. I have no objections to the activities the Blackberry Mountain developers are currently involved in as allowed by their special exceptions to the county zoning ordinance, as long as they're doing all they can to protect environmental and scenic values. I do, however, object to the rezoning proposal being submitted. My biggest concern lies in the fact that Blackberry Mountain Club wants to include their entire property in the rezoned area. That's over 5,000 acres of land and includes 2,800 acres approximately, currently protected by 2 conservation easements. After reviewing a letter Matt Smith wrote to all the commissioners after the public meeting on June 12th, I see no good reason to include the conservation property in the rezoning. It appears that they simply don't want to take the time to restart the process in order to leave that land out. It seems that delaying the rezoning vote by only a few months is not an unreasonable request, considering the high level of interest and the potential effects on the entire community. My concerns over the easement's property inclusion are twofold. First, there is the possibility, even though remote, that at some point in the future the easement could be challenged in court by a future owner. If this were to happen and they succeeded, the land would not revert back to its R2 designation, but to PRRD zoning, which allows many additional activities that would be detrimental to the ecological and scenic values of Chilhowie Mountain. Secondly, I'm concerned about the possibility that North American Land Trust may be less inclined to strictly monitor and enforce the easement agreement if the land has been rezoned. I also take issue with another statement Matt made in his letter regarding their decision to include the easement property. He indicated that one of the reasons they did so was to make the application stronger, as the current use of the Three Sisters properties, now known as Blackberry Mountain, is consistent with the PRRD land use. I feel this was a very misleading statement, as the current use of property under easement is not consistent with the activities allowed under PRRD zoning. To my knowledge, neither is the current use of much of the other 2,200 acres currently zoned as R2. Considering the fact that the general public has been aware of this rezoning proposal for less than 1 month, I'm asking you not to place this rezoning proposal on the July 19th Commission meeting agenda for a vote. There are simply too many unanswered questions.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Thank
Okay.
you. Next, anyone else? Yes, sir. No, sir, right here. She had her hand up right here. No, ma'am, come up. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Katie Duncan, District 8, zoning. I am a resident of Walland, or I will be at the end of the month. I have looked forward to this day for 25 plus years. I vacationed here growing up in the Smokies. Never stayed in Gatlinburg, didn't stay in Pigeon Forge, always stayed in Walland and Townsend in a cabin. Didn't go to resorts, and that's the way I like it. I chose to live in Walland. I chose to build. Didn't build a mansion. I got some property that used to be owned by Dick Evey back in the day, dismantled his barn, I took it piece by piece. I'm using it in my house. I'm using pieces of his windmill in my house, or his grist mill, excuse me. But this is where I'm choosing to live. This is where I'm choosing to build my community. This is where I want to be. And I love Blackberry Farms beer, okay? I'm not anti-Blackberry at all, but just give us some time to learn more about this. Don't put it through, please. Please just give us some time, because I just found out about this again, thanks to Kathleen. And I've been in the throes of this for a long time, and to think of the possibilities to where it could go, we just need more time. We have those 40 acres, that's fine. 500 is a lot bigger than that. So please just consider giving us some time to get used to it and to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir, in the back. No, ma'am. The gentleman behind you, ma'am. Sorry. State your name, please, and district.
My name is Ken Brown. I live in District 5. I own property and hope to build real soon in East Millers Cove, on East Millers Cove Road 1352, where our 20-year-old cabin sits at the 5,000th acre that Blackberry owns. So when you see the numbers that they talk about, what are their potential for the rezoning means for us that they're our neighbors. And they have been so far exciting to think about what could come as this development happens, but it's also a concern for us because we don't know what could happen. Because we own the property on the other side of East Millers Cove Road, I see no reason for it to go into a resort development that is basically on the other side of East Millers Cove Road. I also don't think that the additional 2,500 acres needs to go into that type of zoning either. When Blackberry decided that they had some uses that they couldn't really fit into a zoning, they came to you all and said, help us out, figure out something we can do so that we can meet the demands of our consumers and we can provide the services we want and be in compliance with what our zoning allows. You guys came up with the PRRD, and that makes a lot of sense. And so I would like to ask you all to rethink Blackberry's current request of zoning all of this and to rethink of a way. Hey, we don't want a spot zone because that gets you all in trouble later on, but maybe we need to have some type of zoning that would be able to fit into this historic Walland sort of downtown, if you want to call it that, village Walland, that would give Blackberry the opportunity to do the things that they want to do, but also protect us, those guys who are at the very extremes of what Blackberry is potentially able to do. I don't want a parking lot to be my boundary line. And that's what has happened to some of the folks on East Millers Cove Road. And so as a due process aspect, if you don't rezone that, Blackberry's got to come to you and say, hey, we'd like to do something with that property that backs up to Kim Brown's cabin. And so then I can have a way that I can say, no, you can't do that. But if you PRRD them, they have the ability to do anything inside that zoning that they would like to do. I don't think that's in my best interest or my neighbor's best interest or in our whole community's best interest, because I think that Blackberry would be willing to work with us if they knew that they had to come back to you all for a change in the uses of those lands. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, come on, sir. State your name, item number, district, please.
My name's Billy Mincer. I live in District 8 off Allegheny Loop on Gribble Road at the old railroad bed. I'm a career conservationist, retired from the University of Tennessee and worked for 2 different state wildlife agencies. I'm involved in land conservation as my volunteer hobby for the last 50 years, really. We help buy Foothills Wildlife Management Area and have written through the Foothills Land Conservancy that I volunteered for and have been on that board off and on for the last 30 years. I know after we acquired Foothills Wildlife Management Area and gave it to TWRA, we attempted to see Three Sisters tract, part of Foothill of Shield Highway Mountain protected. We didn't have the resources to do it. It was priced out of our range. We tried it. We did engage Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, state parks, to see about making it a state natural area. They couldn't get it done and walked away from it. So we have done conservation easements. I'm not representing Foothills. This is me talking as a Foothills board member. We've done conservation easements all around the southeast in about 7 states and a bunch in Blount County, including 3 on my land and off Gribble Road. And we did some for Blackberry on West Millers Cove Road, but not on Three Sisters tract. Let me make something clear about conservation easements. A conservation easement is a legal arrangement by the landowner who wanted to protect the conservation property of his or her property and a land conservancy. The landowner helps decide how the land will be used in perpetuity. That easement is guarded by the land conservancy. Now, a different conservancy did the one on Three Sisters. When a piece of property with an easement on it is sold, it is still protected by that easement. The new landowner can't override it. A zoning category can't change it. It still is protected as the landowner wished, and the land conservancy has to guard it, visit it every year, and make sure the wishes of the landowner is protected. Now, we have been partners with Blackberry for many years in West Millers Cove. They've been good stewards of the lands. If there's any question, they always come to us first. What's happening on Three Sister tract is different. There are a lot of concerns by the community, very legitimate ones. I've been to all the hearings, and they need to be addressed. The road issue, the loop road is nothing but an old wagon road that got gravelled and then paved. And, you know, it's not adequate for today's use.
Thank you, sir, for your
Thank you for the
comments.
opportunity.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for your commissioners for your service.
Anyone else? In the back, yes, sir. Come forward, sir. Again, state your name, your district, and the item you want to speak on.
My name is Gregory Hancock, District 4, the item of the rezoning of the 4 tracts of land near Pollard Valley Road. There's been some hearings about this before. I have a few questions and concerns I'd like you to consider before rezoning this. Some of the questions in a previous hearing, the county engineers stated that there were going to need to be improvements made to certain portions of Best Road, including a 2-foot gravel shoulder on each side. My understanding is the regulation means that it would have to have that for the entire section of Best Road, and there is no standard to that met right now. I don't know why he said only certain sections. And if that's the case, also I would imagine that that same standard would have to be met for Carpenter's Grade Road, which feeds Best Road. Also, I am concerned about there's a small stream and pond downgrade from those 4 tracts that they're planning to rezone. I don't know if any impact study has been done to what would happen to those and the impact on the streams and the pond through the clearing of that land. Also, the amount of homes that they're putting in that entire development, I don't know if there's been any study to what that would do to Carpenter's Grade Road population as well as Heritage High School, which are already pretty full. But mostly, I'm really concerned by why they're going from rural 1 to suburbanization. Now, their master plan says they're going to do an average of 3.2 units per acre with a minimum size of 5,000-foot dwelling. If that's the case, why not just go do residential? Going straight to suburbanization opens it up for multifamily housing, which they've already started developing on the tracts that have already been rezoned to suburbanization. And even though their intention on their master plan is only single family, once they get that rezoning, they can change that master plan. And in fact, they can very easily, and I've seen it done many times as a site planner myself, develop part of the property, get it rezoned, sell it to another developer, and once it's rezoned, that developer could come in and completely change the master plan because it's already been rezoned. So I would like and ask you respectfully to try and get some of these questions answered, and also ask, why are they going from rural one, skipping right over residential and going to suburbanization, which allows them to throw in the multifamily units that they're already developing on the other phases that are being built? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And I'd like to applaud everybody for their standing up and coming, speaking so passionately about the issue you folks have been talking about.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please state your name, district you live in, and the item you wish to speak on.
My name is Donna Free. I'm talking on behalf of my Aunt Mary Waters of East Millers Cove Road. First, I'd like to take a step back in time. Cades Cove. The government come in, moved the people out, and made it a national park. All those people moved to Walland or the other parts in around Tuckaleechee. And Luke Lawson, which was my Uncle Lester's uncle, was the last soldier who came home and was buried in Cades Cove. Okay, now let's take present day. Blackberry Farms. They want to rezone this to a PRRD, a resort. And what's that going to do to the people who moved from Cades Cove to Walland? Are they going to try, to me, they're going to try to move them out? You know, progress is good, but how much is progress? Look at all the agriculture farms around here that's been sold to businesses, and there's empty buildings. And I've been to both the meetings, the town hall at Rocky Branch, and the one this past Saturday in Walland. I have a problem when somebody asks somebody's questions and they said, oh, we've been a good neighbor. That I don't know. I think just talk in circles and they're hiding something. But my concern is the loop road. There's 13 feet. It calls for the zoning commission, I think it says 16 feet. Who's going to pay for that? The Blount County taxpayers. That's who. Also, they want the easement. If I read right on the map, they need the easement because that's the only way they can get the 40 acres. Because it'd be like sections. You can't have it in sections. It'd be one section here, like 20 acres at West Millers, and 20 acres in East Millers. That's kind of wrong. Who thought about the school, the fire, could be erosion? Out of the 6 entities that Blackberry Farms own, I found on the internet that they have 3 names reserved for 2022 and 2021 as Blackberry Farm Brewery, Blackberry Farm Distillery, and the brewery at Blackberry Farms. Once this resort goes in, there'll probably be like the guy said about the Six Flags over Walland, or let's say, Jimmy Buffett. And then they could probably get an incline, you know? So are they going to try to make the residents from Walland move?
Ma'am, thank you for your comments. Anyone else? In the back, ma'am. All the way in the back. Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. I'll get you next. Yes, state your name, please.
My name is
District.
Kelly Hill. I'm from District 8. I would like to, first of all, remind you all, yes, this is an election year, and the county is watching you. Second of all, yes, Walland is beautiful. We would like to keep it that way. There's a reason that it stayed as small as it has. It's not just a little town. This is our culture. This is our history. In this room and around your table, you have the names of Blount County. You have the history of Blount County in your hand, and you are selling it off little bit by little bit, right in front of the people that vote for you. I'm standing here because I want my children to know what Walland is. I want them to be able to sit when I'm old and say, this is beautiful. I live in a beautiful place, beautiful mountains and a beautiful river. What's going to happen to that river when you bring all this traffic in? We already have to fight tubers and all their congestion. Cyclists come by. How many of them get killed every year? What exactly are you people thinking of aside from money? This is our future, our county's future. We have watched Ruby Tuesdays and Blackberry Farms get so many easements, hands out, tax cuts, whatever. What are they doing for our community? They're building on it. They are using us to feed their families. They are taking land from our county to make dollars for them. Where is this $1.5 million that they put into the county? Because I certainly haven't read about it. Also, I spent 2 days, which, sir, you should have probably done in District 8, speaking to people down at Walland Center. Do you know how many people knew about what was going on with Blackberry, Chilhowie Mountain? Not many, very few. It's your responsibility to make sure that they know this. You are voted in to serve the public, to protect our county. Your time is limited, sir. We are watching you.
Ma'am, speak to the issue. and
I am
leave
speaking to the
personalities
issue at
out of it.
hand. It's not a personality issue. It is your job issue, sir. It is your job as commissioner to make sure that your constituents are aware as to what is going on. It is quite obvious several people in the county, and certainly around Walland, do not know.
Ma'am, thank you for your comments, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else? This one right here. Please state your name, please. I'm sorry I missed you.
That's all right. My name is Sharon Husky. I live on Husky Branch Road, which is off of East Millers Cove. I'd like to thank the commissioners, Mr. Ackert, Mr. Carver, Mr. Bauer, and Mr. French for coming up, driving the road, at least taking a look. I don't know if anyone else did or not. I'm not quite as eloquent as all the other people, but I'd like to speak to the issue of the traffic. Yesterday, as I was leaving, I met a truck in a turn that we have. It's on Turnmeyer Hill, and he was in the middle of the road. I had to completely stop, and he missed me by inches. It was a dump truck. This happens daily. The road issue and all the traffic that's going to be on it, 200 plus cars, it's not just 200. And the parking lot that they're talking about, if you go over to Walmart, do we need a Walmart parking lot up off of East Millers Cove and off of the Loop Road? The traffic will be awful. Now, I'm not a lifelong resident of Walland. I guess you would call me a new resident. I've only been there 40 years. My husband's family has been there for generations. So, you know, I don't own large quantities of land. I just own the small land that I have been able to buy. I intended to live out my life in peace and harmony. And when all this traffic and all the noise, and there will be noise, you can't have 200 cars in a parking lot and people going to those with there being quite a bit of noise. And I know if this was in your backyard and in your neighborhood, and you were adding 200 plus vehicles driving up and down the roads, you wouldn't be happy about it either. And I really wish that you would think about tabling this and thinking a little bit more about going back to where they don't have to do the whole thing. They don't have to have all this. And could we please put it on the table and let y'all work on a little bit more of a plan? We would appreciate it. I know I would. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Let's see, right. Over in the aisle right here in the back. Yes, sir. Come forward, please. State your name, district, and item.
Good evening. My name is Jim Tedford. I'm a resident of Saddle Ridge in District 8, and I'm here to talk about the potential rezoning of Chilhowie Mountain. I've been fortunate to have been a Blount County resident twice in my lifetime. We raised 3 children on the other side of Chilhowie Mountain and sent them to Porter and Heritage schools. Work took us out of East Tennessee for a time, but as soon as we could get back here, we came back. We have owned property in Saddle Ridge for about 12 years and built our home there nearly 8 years ago. First, I'd like to state that this is not a battle between Blackberry Farm and the residents of Walland. This is a group of concerned citizens who fear the absolute worst for our beloved county. While there are varying opinions on the development off Old Walland Highway and the development on Blackberry Mountain, most everyone shares a concern for the long-term well-being of Chilhowie Mountain. I'm willing to give Blackberry Farm and Blackberry Mountain the benefit of the doubt that their plans are honorable and that they will attempt to minimize the negative impact on this community. I appreciate that they've placed nearly 3,000 acres of the property that they own on East Millers Cove into conservation easement. My concern extends beyond the current and already approved and underway plans for development on Chilhowie Mountain. My concern is that the decision you're being asked to make puts the mountain and our community at risk of overdevelopment, well beyond the lifetime of the current principles of Blackberry Mountain and well beyond the lifetime of this commission and this audience. While I'm sure they plan to keep that property in the family forever, children come along with different ideas. Anybody here who has children knows that. And verbal promises made long ago get forgotten by the next generation. Or circumstances change and property gets sold to new owners, folks who had nothing to do with those original verbal promises. If you have doubts that circumstances for families and for companies change, I ask you to consider the change in ownership of Ruby Tuesday not so long ago here in Maryville. While certainly lucrative in terms of tax collection, for those of us who live in this region, what has happened on the other side of the mountain in Sevier County is sad at best and represents an embarrassment to our region. Blackberry needs 40 acres rezoned in order to achieve their stated objectives near Walland Center. Give them that if you must, but please do not put the rest of Chilhowie Mountain and our entire community at risk. In closing, I don't know what impact additional commercial development may have on my property, but I can tell you that I don't measure my property value only in dollars. We've made our permanent home on the peaceful side of the Smokies. Please keep it peaceful by declining to move this zoning request forward to the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please state your name, district, and item you wish to speak on.
My name is Vicki Buchanan, and I live in District 8. I did not know about the meeting at Rocky Branch because I was out of town for 3 days. I think that is very poor management. I appreciate them bringing it to the attention, and I am also a resident of Blount County my whole life. How many of you on this board can say that? Okay. I have lived on this side of Blount County on the top of Nebo Mountain or Nebo Road. Don't hold that against us. There are those of us that work very hard. I wish that we could have a big meeting that is very publicized, that you will hear from more than just those of us tonight that can be seated in this room and the 100 that were at the Rocky Branch Center. Many that I have talked to since then they drove away because there was no parking. We need a big facility. When Blackberry Farms came into the neighborhood, They began to buy small parcels. They bought a small parcel off of Nebo Road at the top of Charles Young. Then they decided they wanted to take their people that came in and stayed at Blackberry Farm, their customers, their visitors, whatever you want to call them, and take them up to this private piece of land and go skeet shooting. That reverberates all over Rocky Branch and Nebo Road. I live at the very top. You can hear the noise. You can, it's almost impossible to even get out on the highway at sometimes. If you take that across the river on a road that has not been patched, and that's what they do, they patch it. We are so far behind in Blount County, keeping up with our growth. What are we going to do when we have all these visitors and these people coming in from other countries or other states? We can't handle it right now. We cannot even handle what Blackberry has done up East Miller's Cove with the housing, with our school system and our road, as you have heard many people say. I've almost been run over by employees from Blackberry Farm on West Miller's Cove, and I don't even live there. I think we need to table this, and that's what I am asking you all to do.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments.
I am
Thank you, ma'am.
asking you to table
Thank
this.
you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Again, state your name, your district, and the item you wish to speak on.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Purcell. I'm in District 8, and I live behind Heritage High School. And I found out about this because I had a flyer in my mailbox. I want to talk about the rezoning for Blackberry Mountain. Now, for some folks that say, hey, I live far away, well, I got a couple questions that I would like some answers to. And that has to do with infrastructure. I'm concerned about the 321 corridor, the fact that there are not a lot of infrastructure amenities down through there, like sewer, fire, those kinds of things. I'm also concerned about that 321 corridor leading to the peaceful side. I'm concerned that there doesn't seem to be a lot of discussion between Townsend and Walland and what that peaceful side just means to those communities. Traffic is an issue down through there. The Greenway connection, that's going to go from Knoxville all the way to the park where people can walk, bicycle, those kinds of things. That's a big development. Blackberry has stated they want to create that greenway or the inn there because they want to be able to have a place for bicycles and people to get their jams and jellies. All of this is related, but I don't think it's been very well discussed to the public. So all this infrastructure and things that are going to happen, that's of course going to be probably taxpayers' dollars that are going to have to pick that up. That's a problem. Matt Smith talked a little bit about his construction up there on the mountain and with the parking lot. People are worried about runoff waters. When I asked him if he could make that a permeable pavement, he kind of looked at me and said, didn't really think that was possible, but people are going to permeable pavements so you don't have runoff, so I would like to see some of that information. I would also like to have some greater discussion of what this spot zoning is, and I would like our development manager, Thomas Lloyd, to explain what spot zoning is and why that's an issue, because who is going to litigate against Blackberry Farms? I think that's kind of disingenuous. I've seen big landowners violate land trusts before, and the thing of it is, because that area is closed off to the public, who is going to monitor what they're doing? that used to be the not in my backyard, and all of a sudden somebody can build something and it pops up, and how do you stop it? I don't know if we've got really good public oversight. I think that's a challenge. Blackberry may be well-intentioned, but we need more eyes on. I thank you for your help, and please consider setting this back until we get more public comment.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes. I can't see who it is. Yes, ma'am. So again, please state your name, your district, and the item you wish to speak on.
My name is Judy Brownlee, and I live in District 8. I live very close to the issue of the mountain. I have loved that mountain since I was a little girl, and I would not like to see anything harm it. I really felt like Blackberry Farms would develop it very nicely. Part of it is how large it's gotten and the impact it's having on all of us. My 5th great-grandparents came to Blount County across the mountain from North Carolina and settled White Oak Sinks. They too lost their land to the park system, and they moved out and built outside the mountains. After that, I lost the touch that I would have had, the land that would have been handed down to me. So my husband and I have bought land in East Millers Cove area. We have a total of 30 acres. We bought it in small parcels and accumulated. I am now the 7th generation to live. I had an uncle who lived on the very land, a great uncle that lived on the land I own now. And we don't want to be bad neighbors, but we would like to, we've worked on this for so many years that we'd like to have a peaceful time there. And I would like the Three Sisters protected. But we have now cooperated. They're coming through, putting new water lines in. We've signed the easements. We're trying to be good neighbors. We aren't opposed to development. But this has happened so quickly, and nobody had mentioned it at all. I saw the little tiny maps in the newspaper. I had no idea, because they are so tiny, you can't really tell that much about them. And it's even, the print is so small, you can hardly tell what's going on. So I wasn't totally aware. But this is my 2nd time in the commission meetings, because when Homestead decided that they wanted my land, they tried to take it away from us in 2002. And they told us that they had deep enough pockets and they had friends on the commission that they could get our land. And we fought, and they did not get it. And they also went bankrupt. And I don't know where their deep pockets went, but they lost it in 2008. So at one point, a property up at Homestead that had been $89,000, I could have bought for $6,000 right after everything crashed. You never know how things are going to work out. I've acquired the land I have because I'd like to leave it to my 8th and 9th generation.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Thank you, ma'am.
I ask that you table this.
Thank you, ma'am.
And reconsider.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, I think there's a guy. It's hard to see over there, so. Yes, ma'am. State your name, please.
My name is Sherry Lyles, and I live at 2518 Tuckaleechee Pike. I'm here to address the proposed rezoning of the Three Sisters Mountain. I've lived in Blount County for 40 years, married, raised children here, worked here as an RN and as a nurse practitioner. I've hiked and backpacked all the trails in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I have a vested interest in the health of the community and of the environment. When my first grandchild was born, I made curtains for his room. Each one was a depiction of the three sisters, one in the daytime with a big sun and the other one at night with the moon and the stars. Because you see, I wanted to share with that grandson my sense of place, living at the foot of Chilhowie Mountain all these years. I wanted him to be greeted each day by the three sisters just as I have been greeted by them each time I travel and return. That mountain is one of the iconic pieces of our landscape, and it tells us when we see it that we are home. If you picture that ridge line in your mind right now, then you know where the little river has cut its way through over the centuries. You can see that very clearly. The little river, with its headwaters coming down from Laurel Creek, the Middle Prong, and its other main feeder as it comes out of Elkmont. Just as a little bit of context, please remember that 100 years ago, those areas that I just mentioned were still being logged by men who had no use for the Smoky Mountains and their environs. Theirs was a short-term goal that turned old-growth forest into lumber and polluted the adjacent watershed in the process. Luckily, local people, like you and I, sought to preserve it, and a national park was formed. Now we are dealing with a 21st century version of the same land use dilemma. Now I understand that Blackberry Farm purchased that land in question some time back. That's a done deal. And some of us, myself included, were asleep at the wheel when they cut a deal to create their own designated zoning, a slick move that allows them to develop their land purchases with few restrictions. Now, I give them credit for establishing a conservation easement which will mitigate development of the Three Sisters to some extent. But their proposals will still have a negative environmental impact. More artificial light, more traffic, more air and water pollution, and less public access as more and more land in Blount County is privatized. More noise, more roadkills, fewer places to ride a bike, walk a dog, hike, appreciate
Thank you,
nature.
ma'am, for your comments. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Sorry, I didn't see you over there, sir. State your name and district, please.
Dave Edwards. I live in District 8. My wife and I moved to Blount County, I think it was back in 1994. I've lived in Tennessee for almost 40 years now. We live on land that's adjacent to the current UT dairy farm. When we bought the land, it was and still is gorgeous. And we were building a house, and all of a sudden the Waters farm, which is currently UT's dairy farm, was going up for sale. First I heard NASCAR was going to put a track in there, and then Dollywood, and then SeaWorld. I spent a lot of money on Powerball tickets, thinking that I could possibly afford to buy it myself. It didn't happen. UT got it first. And while I would love to have things never change, I know they will. And so what happened to the Waters farm was, in hindsight, the best thing that could have happened as far as we're concerned. I look at Blackberry's development on East Miller Cove much the same way. I wish it could stay the same. It's not going to. Things are going to change. So really what I'm here, I went to the Rocky Branch meeting, and Matt Smith was there, who's representing Blackberry. And when asked why they were trying to rezone the entire conservation easement, he kind of said it was not necessary. They had 10.8 acres in Wallen Center, and to get it developed the way they wanted to, they needed 40. And so they just threw in the other 2,700 acres. And they could really just have had 30 acres. And the reason why, and he said this, was it would take them 4 months to start again. Tonight, I'm going to make your life easy. What you need to do is vote against this, passing it on to the planning committee, let Blackberry come back in 4 months, allow the community to develop a sense of what's going on, to participate in the discussion, and hopefully they would submit a plan that did not incorporate the entire front side of the mountain in this rezoning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone? Yes, sir, over here. You had your hand up, sir. State your name, your district, and the item, please.
My name's Raymond Dunlap, 8th District. I live on McClanahan Lane, which joins the property on top of the mountain. First of all, I would like to say, yes, I am very pleased that Blackberry has that property. I know who was bidding against them when they bought that property. Had they got it, there wouldn't be a stick of standing timber on that mountain today. It would be a desolate thing. I also want to say that, yes, I believe that the Beal family will be very, very good stewards of that land. They're not going to be perfect. They wear no halo. But I think they will try their best to be very good at what's up there. That's where my fears began. There are investors in that mountain. I don't think they're from overseas, but there are investors in that. And there's a lot of money flowing through that area. Millions and millions of dollars in property investment, development. Money's coming from somewhere. At some point in time, I am concerned that the Beal family, even though it's a family, quote, owned business, will not have the influence or will not be able to assert themselves to the point that they can do that today. I believe that their desire to be good caretakers of that land goes plumb to the heart. But in some point in time, somewhere down this road, if we have that piece of property in a zone situation where many, many things can happen, drive through Warres Valley and look at the cabins and everything on those ridges. We don't want that up there. Nobody wants that up there, I don't think. But investors are investors. They expect a return. Today, the returns may be good. 20 years from now, the returns may not be so good. How many of the Beal family will be present? Beal family's good to the heart. Investors, the only thing's close to their heart is their pocketbooks. And they will exercise that. Look at Arconic, one of the biggest companies in the county. Their CEO forced out of office because of investors. An investor group pretty much took over the board of directors of that company. So my only concern is that I say, and I'll be personal, I don't think it ought to be tabled. I think your recommendation is to not accept it at all. I don't know where you have that authority. I know it probably has to go before the commission. There's a lot of controversy in here of why so much land is needed. I know there's the spot zoning and everything. But even if it's a couple of 100 acres, 200-300 acres, even if it's not any part of the conservancy that's at risk, do they truly need the other 2,500 acres in this for some future situation that we know nothing about? But I'll guarantee you that some people have some things that they know about. I'll leave you with that. I simply was expounding on some things that have already been said. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Anyone else? Please state your name, your district, and item.
Yeah, I'm Matt Smith, Wildwood, District 8. I work for Blackberry Farm. We sent a letter through the portal to contact your commissioner today, to everybody here on the commission. I encourage you all to read that. We appreciate the fact that the commission delayed this vote a month. Let us get information out. Let us have the public meetings. We think it was productive. We think it was helpful. In that letter, we summarized the main concerns we heard and some steps that we're willing to take to address those. You know, the timing of this is such that we put this through when there's an election, and we've done the best we can to get the information out. I just want to say to everybody here, there's no hard feelings on any of this. You know, when this is over, the election's over, everything's over, we'll still be here, we'll still be your neighbors, you'll still be our neighbors, and I'll still answer the phone. And I don't really have a prepared statement. I look forward to getting back to work and getting off the phone. But I encourage you to look at that. And this idea about the 40 acres, I encourage you to talk to staff about that, your planning commission staff. I talked to them about that today. Like I said at the meeting, it's a complicated thing. It's not something I can boil down to a sentence. I can boil down to a sentence what our intention is. And our intention is to add value to Blount County, to add value to Walland, to be a great neighbor, to do all those things. The mechanics of this are complicated, and we're in a political season, and so there's a lot of information out there. Hey, boogeyman out there. But like I said, after this is all over, there's no hard feelings on this from anybody, and especially not on our end. And call me, and that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? It's in the back. In the back, I can't. There you go. Again, state your name and your district and the item number, please.
Good evening. I'm Martha McCampbell, Dry Valley Road in Townsend, and I'm here to talk about the BM Club and their development on Chilhowie Mountain. Years ago, I was part of Alternatives for Blount County. It's not NO growth, but KNOW growth. And I think that is, the onus is on those who are wanting the growth and the changes. Blackberry and the Beal family bought the mountain and the multiple parcels knowing what its use availed them. And then to change it, go through the process, but to change all of the land and give them carte blanche to develop as this does allow. I mean, they can do anything from an airport to a Dollywood. We know what happened to Sevier County when they've hoarded themselves. Maybe this just be a real expensive one on Blount County side, but please don't let it happen. Keep it the peaceful side of the Smokies. They can do it as they will, as it is granted now. They don't need to have any more changes. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, sir, in the back on the right. Yes, sir, state your name, your district, and the item.
My name is Dale Cuthbertson. Lived there 30 years on Husky Branch Road in District 8. I've been there way before they ever even thought about buying that mountain. When Homestead wanted to access East Millers Cove Road, the county itself fought them tooth and nail and tied them up in court for 2 or 3 years. And they wasn't wanting to do nothing nowhere near what Blackberry's wanting to do. Nowhere. And I've hauled thousands of yards of concrete in Sevier County to all them resorts in Sevier County. And I've talked to thousands of people. They ain't nobody glad that they built that dadburn resort. Nobody. Only people that's glad it's ours, the resort owners. And another thing, everybody keeps hollering, good neighbor, good neighbor. I'm the one that keeps Husky Branch Road passable. They have never even offered to buy a damn load of rock.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, in the middle. Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please. State your name, your district, please.
Sue Dubois, District 8. I live at 2153 Oakwood Road, and I'm here about the rezoning request. And I want to also ask you to table putting this on the agenda for the County Commission to consider because of all of this tremendous input you're getting from the community and about their concerns. It's pretty obvious to me anyway that there needs to be some more discussion from the community. And I just want to add one thing to all the great points that people are making. The County Commission adopted a green infrastructure plan in 2009, and I'm assuming you have all read that or are familiar with it. It's a great plan. If you haven't read it, a lot of work went into it. the community, there was a lot of community involvement. They used citizens advisory groups. And one of the things that really stands out in that plan is how important Chilhowie Mountain is as a resource to this community, how it stands out as a valuable asset for the community. So I encourage you to go back and look at that. I also encourage you to continue that work, and I don't know, maybe Blackberry Farm can help to support the funding of citizen advisory groups to keep that work going. But I think right now that it is, you're hearing from your constituents, slow it down, do some planning, and I'll just throw out one other thing I haven't heard a lot of in all the discussions from everybody that has talked from the county side or from the company side. I haven't heard a lot about the plans. So it just seems like a little bit more effort needs to go into explaining exactly what the vision is, and that shared vision should involve the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, in the back. Yes, sir. You state your name and your district, sir, and the item.
Charles Byerly, District 8, live on Husky Branch Road, and I was here a month ago. I appreciate everyone here on the board. As you turn onto East Miller's Cove and you start up the hill, you'll see a sign. Sign on the right side of the road says that it is an agricultural district. Of course, that's changed since now we have a resort up on the mountain, put in by Blackberry, probably close to the size of this building, with many cabins around it. That's already there, folks. It's already there. It is true that they purchased the land and they want to be able to utilize it. There's probably nobody in this room that would feel different if they had some land they wanted to utilize also. The difference becomes when it affects so many other people. This building isn't big enough to hold the people of Walland, District 8, if they all knew this was happening. I don't believe it's a big enough building, let alone this room. The runoff in our creek beds, I've got 2 creeks, one on either side of my house. The runoff and the silt in our creek beds has done nothing but completely fill day after day, rain after rain, year after year. Now in 2009, there were some things changed on the mountain, and that's how they have what they have there now. Probably very few people, if any, in this room knew about it. I want to give kudos to the person in Blount County that sent letters out to all of us who got letters in the mail about last month's meeting. But I want to ask that question, why didn't we get them before that? I understand there are state laws, but that question's out there. Somebody mentioned a fire earlier. When the last fire we had on the mountain was 2 years ago, I worked full-time at the airport with the Army National Guard. I was the person that set the fire bucket out on the ramp at 6:30 in the morning for our helicopter to pick up and start working that fire. TEMA in Tennessee prevented them from putting water on that fire for half a day. I am convinced that if we had put water on that fire day one, as soon as we got a call from the local fire chief, we would have had a much better outcome, not 6-7 days of fighting that fire. I ask that you make a motion, that somebody here make a motion and then get a second on it, to either not vote on this, table it, and if there is going to be a motion to carry it forward, I would like somebody here to make a motion to amend it to the 40-plus acres. We put men on the moon, Matt. We can fix this.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, on the aisle. Yes, ma'am. You state your name, your district, and the item.
My name is Janet Kolerick. I live in District 8. I live in Saddle Ridge in Walland. And the view from my deck in Saddle Ridge is Chilhowie Mountain. And when my husband and I first learned that it had been purchased by Blackberry Farm, I think the first thing we thought was, well, thank goodness it was Blackberry Farm and not a number of other things that it could have been, because we know what could have happened if someone else had bought it. And we had confidence that Blackberry Farm and Blackberry Mountain now would protect the view that they see also, and that we see, and that we all enjoy, all of us on this side of Blount County and everywhere, people that go to the mountains. And I still think that probably is true. But I think what really took us all back is when we heard about this zoning thing to change the entire mountain. We know what's going up there now, and we know that's already approved. We're living with the traffic, and we realize we're going to live with the traffic. We're reasonable about this. But when we heard, out of the 5,000, take away the easement, all of that was going to be rezoned, that really set us back. To know that forever and ever, anybody that's sold to, any investors, any of the generations to come that own that property can do whatever they want to with all of that mountain. So I guess what I'm asking too, as so many others have, is please look at stepping back. And what my personal suggestion would be is, let's go back to the 40 acres. Let's do Wallen. Let's do what they can do with that. Take the 5 extra months or the 4 extra months and start over. I realize that when you're building something, that's a big deal, but it's not a big deal in the long run, not to make us all stay good neighbors and protect what we all enjoy so much. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Over here. Yeah, let me get her first, and then I'll get you. Thank you. If I miss you, it's not intentionally, folks. Just state your name and your district, please, and the item.
My name is Sue Dunlap. I live on Cold Springs Road in Walland. And I guess we're an anomaly in ourselves because I grew up in Knox County politics. I know to stay on top of things. One of my hobbies on Sunday morning is to read the property transfers. And I total every week where development is, where property is being exchanged. I also look at building permits every month. I look for the little bitty zoning signs every month. So we were aware from day one when the property was up for sale on the mountain. We join it. We have 100 acres, we join that mountain. And we were excited when Blackberry bought it. I have seen forests destroyed. I have seen downstream erosion. We have seen an increase of wildlife on our property, which on one hand is good, on another hand, at 10 o'clock at night and you've got a bear rolling in your yard, it's kind of hard. And I wasn't really concerned until the development came outside of the confined space of 5,000 acres. I drive 30 minutes to get what I want. Let the people on the mountain drive 30 minutes to get what they want. Don't make a development in Walland, period. Why do we need a bicycle shop? Why do we need restaurants? Why do we need to develop Walland Center? I'm very, very appreciative of this council. all of the commissioners who have read everything coming down the pike for this to be tabled. But I've not heard too many people talk about property taxes. We have a lot of poor people who live in Walland on both sides of the river. I come from a family of developers, long-time developers. You sell a piece of property right here for $500,000, it's going to be taxed by that assessment, and the next door neighbor's taxes will go up. Your responsibility is to all of us, all the poor people who live in this county, struggle. My neighbor said, "Fight for me. I'm 86 years old. I cannot deal with another property tax increase." Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your comment. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. What's your name and your district and the item?
My name is Ann Tedford. I live in District 8 in Saddle Ridge in Walland, and I'm here to talk about the request for rezoning for Blackberry Mountain. First of all, I'd like to thank the commissioners who have been attending the town hall and informational meetings and have driven the roads. That time is appreciated. But I'm here tonight to request that you vote against sending the rezoning request through for approval, and here are my reasons. The obvious reason is one that's shared by most people in this room and gathered here tonight. We love the beauty, all the green space, the lack of commercial development. We even like the quaintness of the Walland Center as it is, but we did not settle in Walland to be surrounded by a resort, parking lots, and a hubbub of people coming and going day and night. We want to be good stewards of our community and our environment, and a sustainable and environmentally responsible development is critical to the survival of our area. The Little River not only supplies Blount County with water, but it is also one of the most biodiverse streams in North America, and we want to keep it that way. I'm asking you to consider the impact of the added resort and recreational development that our little Walland communities are just not able to handle. No environmental impact study was conducted prior to the ongoing Blackberry Mountain development, so we really have no idea how this is impacting vegetation and roads, wildlife habitat, or how this area would ever survive a forest fire. While we've been told about the current plans that Blackberry Mountain has for their property, we all know that plans can change. If the PRRD rezoning is approved, extensive expansion of the Blackberry Resort development could occur in terms of more houses, condos, and restaurants. And even worse, once rezoned, this land could be sold to another developer who could build recreational activities such as zip lines, water slides. That may be an exaggeration, but it's possible. The noise and light pollution would be unbearable in our area. And it could result in Walland becoming another Pigeon Forge or Wares Valley, and I don't think anyone here wants that. Representatives from Blackberry Mountain, and we do appreciate their time, they have told us numerous times that all they really want is to be able to improve the Walland Center by building a retail store, opening a restaurant in the Old Chilhowie Inn, and creating a cafe and rest area for cyclists coming through the area. And they need 40 acres rezoned to accomplish this. If you can create a planned rural resort district for Blackberry Mountain, then surely you can find a way to rezone the 40 acres in the Walland Center area without taking the mountain. I urge you to please stop this and send this proposal back to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir. You barely got in time.
Hi, my name's Jim Clennon-Smith. I live in Saddle Ridge, and I just have one question for Blackberry. Why do they said they needed 40 acres to rezone. That's a minimum rezoning. They want to build a restaurant, a general store, and a bicycle shop. Why
did they have to request 135 times the area they need for, you can't build enough general stores to fill up 135 times 40 acres. You just can't do it. And East Millers Cove Road won't take it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Please state your name, your district, and the item you wish to speak on.
My name is Susan Weeks. I think I'm in District 4. I want to talk about the public input on the items about the rezoning. I have been sort of where you guys are before. I've been mayor of the village that I lived in and all. When we retired, we chose to come down here to live. I currently live in Maryville. We looked at property in Wallen, Townsend, every place around here for about 4 years before we decided where to live. We have a beautiful view of Chilhowie Ridge and absolutely love it. We come down into the Wallen area quite a bit. When we are out running errands or just need a respite from actually being in a village or a town, we come down. And when you come down the road and you get to Wallen, it's like, oh, it's beautiful. You have the mountains. It's not commercial. I realize that progress is going to take place. If people want a lot of progress, they can go to Gatlinburg. It's not that far over there. I'd like you to take a look at the future. Some of the impacts that I think you need to consider, whether it's 40 acres or 5,000 acres, or whether it's Blackberry Farms or somebody else. One of the things that we as a community ran into problems with was when you start putting in houses, that eliminates water going into the ground. When you put in blacktop, water doesn't go into the ground. So you have more runoff, more likelihood of floods. Then you have further down the road, if you end up with houses there, one house on a road usually means that a school bus has to be able to go down it. And most of you know that a school bus isn't 2 feet wide. So it takes a lot of space and a lot of space to turn. So that needs to be dealt with because that's going to be something that's going to cost the taxpayers money in the future because they are going to have to upgrade the roads. Even if you just get 10 more cars, I can guarantee you, you're going to have better infrastructure. Again, the Blackberry Farms people are not the same as they were 20 years ago. They won't be the same in 20 years from now. So I advise you to go slow, look at everything that needs to be looked at, and not just what's right in front of you. Look at what's in the future and try to keep it the quiet side of the Smokies. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comment. Anyone else? Yes, sir. State your name, your district, and the item you wish to speak on, please.
Keith Kennedy, District 8. Just found that out today because I got my voter registration card in the mail. A little different perspective, but it's around the Blackberry Farms redistricting. I came here just to listen and to learn. One of the things when I moved to Wallen 3 months ago was I knew nothing about this. I only found out about it in the last probably 30 days. So there wasn't a lot of information available that I could find readily. So I've got really only a couple of challenges for you. One is if you've never ridden or driven out East Wallen or East Millersville Cove Road, you might want to do that before you consider moving it forward. You've already heard everybody express their concerns, the dangers. I've met trucks in the middle of the road. Fortunately, I drive a large truck, so a lot of people get out of my way as well. But I also try and stay as far over as I can. That is difficult. It can also be very dangerous because you can get off the road pretty quick. And if driving it is not enough, do it on a Friday afternoon when everybody's coming off the mountain, ready to go home, ready to go drinking, and that sort of thing. The 30-mile-an-hour speed limit is more like 40, 50, people slamming on their brakes, dodging. It gets pretty interesting. So I've got 16 grandkids. I wouldn't want them driving that road on a regular basis, particularly at night. It's pretty bad. So all I'm asking is that you, for whatever reason, I know Matt's saying it's complicated. A little bit of my history is I worked for Fortune 50 companies. Yes, a lot of things are complicated. If it's trying to get rushed through, it's usually a problem. They have somebody providing information to you that's on a payroll. The community does not have that. So it takes time to move forward, and all we'd ask is you give us that time. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for your comment. Anyone else? Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am. State your name, your district, and the item number, please.
I'm Lynn Hops, and I live in District 8 in Saddle Ridge, and I want to echo what everybody else has said tonight. You've got to stop future development on Blackberry Mountain, Three Sisters. We know the 40 acres and the development is already there. We can see it from our neighborhood, and I'm just kind of curious as what it's going to be like when it's all done and all the lights are up at night. We like the darkness. So we get that, but I'm concerned about the environment. I'm concerned about our community for any future development. There's been no impact studies on the environment, on the community. They're just wanting to hurry up and rush it through. We need more time to figure this out, and I'm curious as to why Matt doesn't want 4 months is nothing. I've had to go before committees in District 4 in Blount County for years to get something passed. So 4 months is nothing. And I'm kind of curious as to why he wants to hurry up and rush it through. But if the zoning is changed, it's changed forever. And we can't, regardless of what they say, regardless of current plans, decisions for the future can change, and it would cause irrevocable damage to our community. And we understand they've got the 40 acres, like I said. Just leave that. They don't need anything else. And I'm asking you all to please think about that when you're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else wish to speak? Yep. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name, your district, and the item, please.
Judy Pearson, District 8, Saddle Ridge homeowner. I'm not going to repeat what you've already heard tonight. I'm going to tell you a quick story. My husband and I bought land in Saddle Ridge and moved there 12 years ago. We used to live at the corner of Peters Road and Kingston Pike in Knoxville. And when we moved there, the realtor said, it's beautiful country, it'll be quiet, it'll be perfect. A great place to raise kids. Joann's Fabrics, Lowe's, Best Buy over there, that was all a driving range for golfists to practice. Look at West Knoxville now. Don't let Blount County end up being a Knox County repeat. Take your time and make your decisions for all of us. That includes each of you, because I'm willing to bet a bunch of you go to the Smokies that way to avoid Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am, state your name and your district, please.
Julie Williams, District 8, and my husband and I were lucky enough in 2013 to find our little slice of heaven in Blount County, and don't have anything to add to this except please table this and take your time with it. And as a Blount County taxpayer now and a voter, I'd like to see us slow down and if just give them the 40 acres for now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no hands, we will move to the next item on the agenda is approval. Make that motion. Request. Commissioner Bowers, you recognize, sir?
I move for a 5-minute recess.
If there is no opposition, no one opposed, hearing no opposition, we're recessed for 5 minutes. Okay, folks, if you would. Okay, if everybody would have a seat, please. Do we have everyone back now? Are we missing anybody? Okay, I think we have everyone. Okay, the next item on the agenda is C, approval of the agenda minutes. The chair will stand for a motion to approve the June 12, 2018 minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Carter moves. Commissioner French seconds. Vote yes to approve the minutes, but no, not to approve the minutes. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 yes votes.
Thank you. There's 18 yes. That motion carries. The minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. The chair will stand for a motion to forward the consent calendar to the full commission. Commissioner Bowers moves.
Second.
Commissioner Lewis seconds. The members ready to vote? Vote yes to forward the consent calendar. Vote no not to forward. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, there are 18 yes votes.
The motion carries. Consent calendar will be forwarded to the full commission. Next item is let me find it. In my place here. We have one unfinished business item. The chair will stand for a motion to forward to the commission Resolution 18-06-015, a resolution to amend the zoning map of Blount County, Tennessee from R2 Rural District 2 to PRRD Planned Rural Resort District for multiple tracts of land on East Millers Cove Road and the Loop Road Wallen from R1 Rural District 1 to PRRD Planned Rural Resort District for properties on Old Wallen Highway. Chair would stand for a motion. Commissioner Allen moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bowers seconds. Discussion. Commissioner Carter, you recognize, sir.
I know we have a motion on the floor, but I was going to make a motion to send this back to the planning committee for more transparency.
Commissioner Carter makes a motion to refer to planning. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a second? Commissioner Ackert seconds. Is there a discussion?
Wait just a minute, let me get things set.
Okay. Let our technology catch up.
Okay.
Commissioner Allen, you recognize, sir?
Just, I would like to ask the motion maker a quick question as to what he expects the planning commission to do with this. It come out of planning with a unanimous pass. The property in question meets the exact definition of this zone.
One, a lot of the issues that were brought up tonight, as far as even the impact to the land, and also I am on the planning committee, and I didn't see, we didn't see this. And now we've got more information. I think that with that whole mountainside, though, that's a lot of property to take in just one swipe. If you want 40 acres, I don't understand why you need 2,000 more. And that being said, for the same reason why we didn't improve the business thing up by the the water filtration place, we didn't give them that, we didn't pass that, because once we pass something, then anybody can come in later on and change it to whatever they would like. So that being said, if we do pass this, and for example, say in 20, 30 years that they do decide to sell that to a Wyndham or anybody else, what do we have?
Commissioner Daly, you recognize for the first time on the motion to refer.
First time. I'd like to amend this motion. Is that allowed at this time?
The motion to refer.
What I'd like to do is amend the motion to go instead back to Blackberry Farms.
Ma'am, right now we have a motion to refer back to the planning committee. Right now, that would be out of order.
Okay, that was
Commissioner French, you recognize for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I understood what this rezoning request was concerned. I've spent probably the last week looking at this thing, and I've asked a lot of questions, but I still have questions that need to be answered. Like Commissioner Carter, wasn't aware we were going to have this many people speak and their concerns. Some of their concerns I question, but some of them are legitimate. You know, and I'm not picking on you folks that spoke tonight, but I heard a lot of people from Saddle Ridge speak, and you know, I'm not familiar with Saddle Ridge. I don't know how old that development is. It may be 15 or 20 years. I don't know. But I keep thinking 15 or 20 years ago, when the people decided to develop Saddle Ridge, what if they'd have come in and said, no, ma'am, we're not going to let you develop. We don't want you here. You created more traffic when you came too. So that argument, I don't take cotton to, because you were in the same situation when you came to Saddle Ridge. That being said, there are other arguments I think that are legitimate. As far there are some questions that came out that I'd like to clarify, but I think tonight might be the wrong time. The public notice, state law requires the county to post it in a publication of general circulation 15 days ahead of the public hearing. Now, I've heard the argument, well, we don't read the paper or we don't get the paper. I'm sorry. But that's the state law. Our people in the Planning Commission go way, way overboard on getting the word out. And I take exception to people blaming the Planning Commission. They put that notice in the paper 15 days ahead of time. But they also, our local regulations state that we need to post that property. And we post that property. And we posted it in several locations. And that sign stays up until the day of the meeting. I know a lot of you are going to argue with me and think I'm wrong. I'm telling you what we do.
Commissioner, this is on referral.
The next thing, it's posted online. It's posted online. I know a lot of people don't have computers, but it's posted online for the commission agenda and the planning commission agenda.
The commission is, right now, the motion before us is
I
rather
understand,
to refer.
and I'm speaking toward that motion.
Okay.
I'm moving that way.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but and the next thing we do is we send out notices to the people that surround that particular piece of property, and those notices go to property owners 2 deep from that piece of property. So, the commission goes overboard. We sent out 267 pieces of mail to the people that were contiguous to that piece of property. But anyway, I'm getting out of hand. I've got several other things that I've wrote, but I'm speaking to the matter to postpone, and I think there were some refer back to, and I think there were some legitimate concerns raised, and I agree with Commissioner Carter, Commissioner Akerd. I think somewhere in here, and I don't know, I've looked at it and I've still got questions. Somewhere in here, I think we can reach some kind of compromise, and I think we might be able to do that by referring it back to the Planning Commission. I myself serve on the Planning Commission also, so I'm speaking in favor of the referral back to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bowers, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to ask the chair, what's the procedural ramifications for Blackberry Farm to refer this back, get it looked at again, bring it back before the commission? I don't know if you can answer that or if we have somebody here from planning that might.
The chair does not have the answer to that. I don't know. Mr. Lloyd, do you want to handle that one? Mr. Lloyd, you recognize, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, and actually this came up at the last meeting as far as what time frame, once an application has been made, does the county commission have to act on the request? And I'm not an attorney. However, I went back and looked at the county zoning enabling laws, and the only time frame that I could find is the time in which the planning commission has to make a decision, and actually it's if they're denying a decision. So for the planning commission has to deny a zoning request within 30 days of receiving the request. If they do, then it has to be a supermajority of this board to be able to overturn their recommendation to deny it. That's the only timing. So as far as if you guys wanted to remand it back to the planning commission, and what I would suggest is if you did do that, to give them some parameters, so that way the planning commission kind of knows what it is that you're wanting them to look at. And if it's of a modified request perhaps, or different boundaries or something of that nature, I think if you send it back to them, they should have a little guidance on what that would be. As far as this board's ability to be able to sort of change a request on the fly as far as zoning, that one I didn't know. So I reached out to the legal staff at CTAS, and they gave me the case law. And again, I'm not an attorney, so my head was about to explode after I read it. But what I got out of that was the case law in the state Supreme Court has said that if it is a significant change, then it should be referred back to the Planning Commission. But they don't really give you a definition of what significant was. The case was one where it went from a request of 10 acres to 90 acres. So it actually became a much bigger request. The alternative, if it gets smaller, I'm not really sure. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's about the extent of my knowledge of the subject. So
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Akerd, you are recognized, sir, for the first time.
If I could yield the floor to Commissioner Stinnett for just a moment, since he has questions for the man at the podium, that would be great.
Commissioner Stinnett, you recognize, sir, for the first time.
Thank you, Chairman. Question for Mr. Lord, Chairman.
You could ask the chair, please.
Can this project, would you ask him if this project can be done with 40 acres?
Mr. Lloyd, do you understand the question, sir?
I believe I do, and actually, as far as the project itself, we aren't really looking at a project. We're looking at creating a zoning district. So the specifics of the project, I think, would go to the applicant as far as questions. But when you're looking at a rezoning request, you don't usually look at the specific project. You're looking at the possible impacts of that district on the land and surrounding properties. What our definition and the way that the zoning district is created, it is at a 40-acre minimum. So part of the answer is, yes, you could do it with 40 acres. The other side of the coin is, I don't know if 40 acres, if all of the different pieces, you think sort of as this district as a box, our zoning, the way that district is described, it has some very specific things that have to be put into that box. And let me just read it here so I'm not shooting from the hip. But it says, and I'm sure everyone's looked at, the PRRD and what it allows and doesn't allow, and excuse me. One of the things you have to read is in A2. At the end of that, it says any planned use mixed development within the zone shall include all of the following: integrated resort accommodations, restaurant, recreational facilities, and defined open space of at least 20% of the zone as the core of the zone development. So I don't know their plan, from what I've heard, we're talking about a restaurant, a store, a bike shop. Those aren't all the pieces of that box in and of itself, specifically resort accommodations. So, that's why I think there's probably some other things that maybe need to be looked at as far as that's concerned, and, point the planning direction in that, the planning commission in that direction if you so inclined.
Thank you. Hold on, just don't run away yet. Commissioner Stinnett, did that answer your question, sir?
Got another question.
Okay, please ask your question.
So, Chairman, that being said, so if we send it back to the planning, what directions are we going to send to them? I'm confused that they've sent it to us, and we're sending it back, and I think someone said that we need to direct them in some type of direction what to do. What I'm concerned about is what if, how many, Chairman, do you know how many parcels there are in this acreage?
16.
How many?
16.
16.
Yes.
Okay.
A bunch.
So if there's 16, if this wasn't Blackberry, how many possible residents could they be?
The chair doesn't have the answer to that. That's a hypothetical.
No,
I don't know.
Mr. Lloyd has it.
Mr. Lloyd, do you know the answer to that?
I mean, if you were looking at totally developing every square inch of the property, I mean, we'd have to calculate the numbers based on the density. Now, that said, you know, we're coming, the request is to come out of R1 and R2 zoning. Some of the parcels are in R1, some are in R2. The request going into PRRD, the development standards of PRRD, excuse me, they maintain the same density as the district it was in before. So if you had, you know, let's say 1.2 dwellings per acre, that portion would maintain that same maximum allowable density. The other part of that puzzle is the PRRD mandates a 20% open space requirement. So if you look at it that way, you're actually reducing density by 20%. I mean, it's convoluted, and I apologize for that. But the best
It's okay.
explanation I
Commissioner,
can give.
does that answer your question?
Well, my point was, and what I think the numbers are, is you're talking about 480 residents versus 365. Those numbers close to it. This would decrease the possibility of residents on that hill. So I'm just concerned about why we're sending it back to planning when, if we've got to send them some directions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bowers, you're recognized for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, do you know if this is rezoned PRRD? That I've had this question posed to me a lot, and I've told them that it could be, but people seem to be adamant that can it be rezoned back to something else, R1, R2?
Mr. Lloyd, you want to handle that one?
I see no reason why it couldn't be. I mean, the county itself has the ability to rezone property. So you could, you know, you could pick up, you know, one end of the county and decide that you're going to rezone it into some other district, and you can do that. So you've got a couple of different options in that case. If the applicant were to petition to rezone the property back, certainly that's the easiest way of doing it. That would be very similar to this process. The other way is, you know, the county, the planning commission, through this board could change the property back. Now, what you would, one of the things that you would keep in mind there is you know, the possibility of creating non-conforming uses. So if something is developed under a district and then you change it, actually downzone it, go backwards, you may or may not create non-conforming uses. To give you an example, the county had no zoning at all until 2000. And at that time, the county adopted zoning. So then zoning went on every piece of property in the county. So.
Commissioner, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lloyd?
Thank you.
Let me see. Commissioner Aker, you recognized for the second time, sir.
I would have thought it would have been my first time, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've seen and heard that the people didn't know about it, so they weren't at the planning commission meetings when they were held. I believe that will probably, them being at those meetings will probably give the planning commission a lot of direction. I have seen witness now with 100% certainty that our state law that we're adhering to about proper notice is tremendously antiquated in today's world. I witnessed a sign on Alcoa Highway that I had to stop and get out of my car and take a picture of it in order to blow it up later and read it to see what the public notice was. We could adopt a resolution that required us to put up bigger signs, use social media, and make public service announcements on cable and radio regarding public meetings being held to help resolve this sort of dilemma that we have a room full of people that said they didn't know anything about something that we're saying that there was plenty of notice about. But I believe that referring this back to the Planning Commission will take care of this particular instance of this problem. And it is my intention to hopefully get some of you all to work with me to update our policy on public notice for future instances in Blount County. And I hope you all support this. Thank you.
Commissioner French, you recognized for the second time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have several questions and comment. My comment on our planning commission going overboard didn't preclude that I was against updating those laws. I agree with Commissioner Akers, but I would like to have Mr. Lloyd come back and if he could answer some questions.
State your question.
Well, the first one is, and I don't know if he's privy to the map I have here, but my question is, we've been talking about 40 acres. Everybody keeps saying 40 acres, but it states it's a minimum of 40 acres. But I've got a question if we couldn't.
We are talking about referring back to the planning. That's the motion
Okay.
before us, is
No,
motion to refer. Commissioner Allen, you recognize, sir. Second time.
One quick question and some statements after the answer, and I don't know if you can answer this for Mr. Lloyd, but anyhow, Mr. Chairman, if we take the land in the easement out of the request, if we refer this back to planning and we ask them to take the land in the easement out, which from hearing these people, I think that's what their desire is, can Blackberry still achieve the 40-acre minimum in the continuous land in downtown Wallen?
Mr. Lloyd, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would have to see, a survey and a legal description of what it would look like. So basically, you'd be taking this request and pulling out all the conservation stuff. I don't know if there's a contiguous, if it connects back to the property there. I mean, I don't.
It can't. It can't make it.
So I mean,
that's the reason. Everybody's wondering why they need so much land. That's the reason they need the land, because that easement, they've given so much land to the conservative easement, they can't get their 40 acres. So a few statements, if I may. So what this does, why I voted for it in planning, this gives a 20% less density to the property. They cannot build they can build 20% less stuff than they can if we leave it as R1 and R2. It has the same density as R1 or 2 with that 20% adder. So they can't build any more than they already can build. That's not why they're wanting to do it. The land conservative, as you heard from the land conservator, cannot be changed with ownership. So once it's in a land conservative, it's always in a land conservative, and that whoever's in charge of it has to go annually to make sure that it stays that way. Any commercial use, I don't know if y'all know this, but they have to come back to planning for approval. So this is not a one-time deal and they can do anything they want and it'll never come back again. Any commercial use has to come back through planning again and get voted on and approved on. Like I said before,
Remember,
planning unanimously passed this with a lot of thought. We didn't just graze by it. This is why we passed it, because we're actually helping reduce the density of this land. I think that's it. That's it. Thank you, sir.
thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Miller, you recognize, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo the statements that Commissioner Akerd made about this going back to planning. I think it's wonderful that all these citizens are out here. We represent this whole county, and we want to maintain Blount County's beauty, and we do not want to see it sabotaged. I think that it's very important for these citizens to attend all Planning Commission meetings, because that's where you put your input in. That way you can stay on top of all the issues. You know exactly what's going on step by step. Coming to these meetings is very, very important. I couldn't encourage you more than to come to every single one of these meetings, agenda meetings, planning meetings, budget meetings, to keep this county a beautiful, sound-running county that you want to be proud of, to pass your legacy and heritage on to your children and
Motion
grandchildren.
the first is to refer.
And I do totally agree with this going back to planning, and I hope these people can put their input in to see things can be done correctly for the best interest of every citizen in Blount County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Aker, you've already spoken twice, sir.
No, sir, I believe I only spoke once.
No, sir, you're recognized twice, sir. Commissioner Stenich, you're recognized for the second time, sir.
Chairman, can I yield my time to Mr. Akerd?
Mr. Aker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had density brought up a couple of times, and while we might be talking about residences, R1 and R2 allow a denser population for residences than the PRRD. There's a whole bunch of stuff permitted in PRRD that's absolutely not permitted in R1, R2. Or we wouldn't be in here with a request. They want to do other things than what they're allowed to do in R1 and R2.
Motion is to refer. That's what we're discussing.
Yes, sir. I'm one of the people on the motion, and there can't be any harm in letting it be discussed at a smaller tract size than the entire mountain. The conservancy issues, even if the landowner can't stop the conservancy, there is the matter of enforcement, and how that would be handled in a court of law would be quite interesting regarding the pocketbook size of the parties involved. But everything, all these side issues set aside, if we look at the crowd of people that are here that didn't know about the Planning Commission meeting, the sponsor of this resolution, this motion to return is on that committee and knows that this crowd wasn't there. It seems to be really elementary to let's go with what the people in the room are clamoring for and make this happen. Thank you.
Concerning the motion to
Commissioner,
refer.
you've been recognized twice, sir.
Can I speak a third time, sir?
No, sir. You know what?
The man's got something he wants to say.
Commissioner
I'd like to
Kaler.
yield- I would like to
Commissioner Kaler,
yield
you're
to-
recognized, sir. We need, the motion before us is whether to refer back to the Planning Commission or not. That's the motion before us.
So are you allowing me to yield my time back to Commissioner Bowers?
It seems I set that precedent, didn't I?
Okay.
Probably should
All right.
not have.
Oh, you know, I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Seems like I'm on the planning commission too with Mr. Allen. I just want to make sure if we're going to refer this back, we refer it back in the right legal manner with the right parameters set so that the motion makers that are referring it back, refer it back with language that directs the planning commission, which I think is what Thomas Lloyd told us to do. And I don't know if we need to alter that motion in that second or not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Kaler.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cole, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question in regards, if we refer this back to the Planning Commission, I think it's difficult to give those parameters, but if we do a straight up yes or no vote and it's voted down, how long before Blackberry can come back to the Planning Commission with a different proposal?
Mr. Lloyd, do you want to handle that one? Mr. Lloyd, you recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the regulations say that if a rezoning request is denied, then it is 1 year before you can apply for the exact same request. You can make a significant change to the request and reapply immediately.
Commissioner, does that answer your question?
I guess, is there a definition on significant?
Mr. Lloyd, you recognize, sir?
I would say that that's a question for a lawyer, but that's the same standard that's being applied on sending it back to the Planning Commission. It's that significant. And so, you know, I would urge the commission to be conservative. You know, in a situation like this, I think it's probably better to err on the side of caution. Just my opinion.
So if I understand what you're saying, you think it's better to do the vote yes or no, and if it's no, then they can come back?
No, I was talking about a referral back to the Planning Commission. I think that's probably if you're going to do it, it's instead of trying to figure out whether it's a significant change or not, probably just assume that it is. And then to your question about, you know, if it's denied, I think that's going to be at your discretion whether or not it's a significant enough change to be considered again. Because it would have to start, you know, it'd have to start with the Planning Commission as a new request. So,
thank you.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Crowe, you're recognized, sir, for the first time.
A question, you may want to refer this, but if it goes back to Planning Commission, does a clock of 30 days go into effect?
Mr. Lloyd? Mr. Lloyd, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I honestly don't know that answer. I would say that the 30-day, my opinion is that the 30 days has probably already been satisfied by the Planning Commission in hearing it in the first place. If you're sending it back, I think you're okay to do that.
Commissioner Crowe, does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
What in the world?
Can you turn my light off or is it going on?
Commissioner Bennett, you recognize, sir. for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question refers to kind of parliamentary procedure. So if we don't vote to refer this and then we vote to send this to commission next week and it fails, and thus we don't take action on it, what happens? Will then Blackberry be able to bring it, because we've not denied it, so it simply didn't make it to the agenda? And again, that may be a legal question, but, and then I want to speak to the motion to refer. But I think that's important to know what's going to happen if we vote on these. If we don't vote on the motion to refer, and then we don't vote no to send it on, does that leave it an open issue that can later come back in front of this body?
Commissioner, this item was postponed at the last meeting and sent forward, which makes it in the orders of the day, which means that we have to deal with it one way or another. It would be out of order to postpone again. Our only course of action would be to deal with it or refer it.
I understand, but under state law, the commission is required to act on this. And so we have two choices. Either, I mean, if we vote no to send this, put this on the agenda next week, the commission is not taking action on something that the planning commission sent forward. And so we either vote to refer it or we vote yes to send it on to vote on it. There's not a vote no to put it on the agenda. And again, I may be wrong, but state law says that the commission has to act on the planning commission action. And so I may be wrong totally, but I want to understand that because of how I want to vote on this motion to refer.
And I believe that's what the rules are saying, is that we have to take action on it because it was postponed and it was sent forward as an unfinished business item.
By our rules? Okay. So my statement is this on the motion to refer. I sit on the planning commission as well, and I voted to send this on. But I also am a huge proponent of transparency and always have been. And I do believe that the planning commission reconsidering this and reacting on this is in the spirit of the right thing to do in the county. So I'm going to vote on a motion to refer.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? The motion is to refer back to the Planning Committee. Ooh, that's my computer. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to refer back to Planning. Vote no not to refer. Please vote.
Mr. Chairman? There are 17 yes votes and 1 abstain.
That item will be referred back to the Planning Commission.
Don't want to stay the rest of the night to watch the rest of the agenda.
If there's no opposition, we'll stand in recess for 5 minutes. Everyone come to order, please. I said I was going to have to separate you two guys over there. Got you. Yes, yes, yes. Motion to refer, yes. Okay, if I can find where I was. Next item of business is F1, and there are 3 budget transfers.
Mr. Chairman, I move we send a full commission items 1 ABC and 2 ABC.
Commissioner Bennett makes a motion to forward 1A, B, and C to the commission. Commissioner French seconds. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, that included 2A, B, and C as well. 1 and 2.
As Commissioner Bennett makes a motion to forward F1A, B, and C, F2A, B, and C to the commission. Second by Commissioner French. Any discussion? Are the members ready for the question? Please vote yes to forward. Vote no not to forward.
Mr. Chairman, there are 18 yes votes.
Thank you. Those items are forwarded to the commission. The next item is F2. Let's see F3, there are no other budget items. Next item is F4.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we send 4A, B, and C to commission. Second.
Commissioner Bennett makes a motion to forward 4A, B, and C to the commission. Commissioner Lewis seconds. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote, please. Vote yes to forward, vote no not to forward.
Mr. Chairman, there are 18 yes votes.
Those items will be forwarded to the commission. The next item is item F5. Well, I lost my place. Chair will entertain a motion to forward Resolution 18-07012, a resolution to transfer Laurel Road and Laurel Road right-of-way to Laurel Valley Property Owners Association for the commission. Commissioner Bowers moves. Commissioner Carter seconds. Any discussion? Commissioner Daly, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you. We're talking just about a couple of yards here, aren't we?
A couple of what, ma'am?
Aren't we talking about a couple of yards of Laurel Road?
A couple of yards, as in feet? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Hedrick, do you want to handle that, sir?
What?
I think it's a little more than a couple of yards.
Well, I mean, not counting the right-of-ways.
Okay.
It's just
Mr. Hedrick, you understand the question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you recognize, sir.
It's an area behind the gate.
Yeah, I know.
And a little bit of the road. And so we get rid of that and that liability of that road and the upkeep with that.
It's awful.
And we have the ability to turn around in front.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hedrick. Any other discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote forward. Resolution 18-07012, vote yes to forward, vote no not to forward. Please vote.
Commissioner Daly, do you wish to vote? Mr. Chairman, there are 18 yes votes.
The motion carries. That item will be forwarded to the commission. Next item on the agenda is F6, resolution number 18-07013. Chair will entertain a motion to forward that resolution authorizing a release of deed restriction regarding certain real property on County Farm Road in Blount County, Tennessee to the full commission. Commissioner Bowers moves. Is there a second? Commissioner Stinnett seconds. Any discussion? Commissioner Daly, you recognize, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. In these attachments, I hope everybody will have time to study that some more because it talks about morals and condemning property. I don't know how that morals is going to fit in anything, but I think you just need to look at it closer before you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, please vote to forward to the commission or vote not to forward.
Mr. Chairman, there are 17 yes votes and 1 no vote.
That item will be forwarded to the full commission. At this time, the chair would like to call Vice Chair Lewis to the chair for item F7 and F8.
Where's your agenda? To 7.
It is, sorry, it's step down.
Okay. Item 7 is resolution number 1807-014, resolution to authorize the exercise of Blount County of certain powers granted to municipalities under TCA 6-2-201, 22, and 23 with respect to the regulation of all acts and all other things detrimental and of a nuisance to the inhabitants of Blount County and exercise general police powers. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion from Commissioner Caskey. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Crowe. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Caskey, you are recognized.
Just want to explain briefly what this resolution does. It's referred to as County Powers Act. I checked with CTAS. The purpose of it is to give this legislative body the authority to regulate certain things that might be considered detrimental or of a nuisance. When fireworks were deemed legal in Blount County, the only one that regulates those right now is the state fire marshal. That's the only one. The County Powers Act, if it is enacted, it gives the authority to this legislative body to pass regulations. Now, it's very limited on what you can do, and that's why you see a lot of references to TCA. The focus is on regulating fireworks. And even then, if you come with a resolution to regulate any part of fireworks, it would have to be passed by a 2/3 majority of this body. So it's not like you can just pass anything you want. It has to be passed by 2/3, and there are limitations. That's the intent of this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Eckerd, you're recognized.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are these Tennessee Code annotated laws that we're looking at already on the books in the state of Tennessee?
Yes.
Commissioner Caskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler, you're recognized. Oh. Sorry, I thought you were done, Commissioner. Go right ahead.
Why do we need to have redundancy with the state law, with the local law? I don't understand why we need to do something that's already law.
Is that in the form of a question, Commissioner?
It is. Why? Why do we need to do this when there's already state laws on?
Commissioner, this legislative body has zero authority under current state law, has zero authority to regulate anything that a municipality can regulate. That's the whole purpose of the County Powers Act. It gives this legislative body the authority to regulate. The reason that those citations are in there is to show you that, or to show the commissioners the references, and you can go to those and look, because there are a lot of things that are excluded from regulation, a lot of things that this legislative body could not regulate, such as mining and mines and oil and gas and those sort of things. Public safety, you can't do that. So there's a lot of things in there that you can't regulate. The focus of this was to give this legislative body the authority to regulate fireworks. Without this, you cannot do it.
Commissioner Crowe, you're recognized.
Yes,
Got an answer to my question, but I wasn't done. So we're voting to give ourselves more authority. Is that not, would that not be better served via public referendum or something to have the voters determine whether or not they want to give us more authority rather than us granting it to ourselves? That's a question.
The law does not allow that, Commissioner.
The law doesn't allow us to have a referendum versus us doing it?
Okay, you asked me a question, allow me to answer, please.
All right.
Like I said, I checked with CTAS on this to find out how this body could regulate fireworks, and this is the only way that it can be done, sir.
In that case, could we limit this resolution to specifically list fireworks rather than all of those other authorities that we would have, we would be giving ourselves power over?
Commissioner Caskey.
I suppose you could, but this resolution actually came from CTAS. This is actually a resolution this is a model resolution from CTAS. If you want to start limiting on what you can do that, but the law is very specific and it is very targeted, Commissioner. If you look at the resolution, it targets two very simple little sections of the law there. Very simple. It doesn't give this commission broad authority. It gives you very limited authority.
According to what I'm reading on my screen right now, it says all other things detrimental and a nuisance to the inhabitants of Blount County. So it has tremendously broad scope beyond fireworks as it's listed. And I'm asking, before I would immediately vote no, is there any way that we can limit the scope of this to fireworks rather than giving this body a tremendous amount of authority by ourselves?
Commissioner Caskey.
Commissioner, it does not give this legislative body broad authority. It gives you very limited authority. If you look at it, if you look at the TCA, it's very limited authority.
Sir, that's not what the resolution says.
So I can't go ahead and make this all night long. So it's a matter of opinion between two. No, sir, it's not.
That's call to order.
It's not debatable.
Commissioner Crowe, you're recognized. You're on. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Have a call to question from Commissioner French. Second from Commissioner Allen. There is no debate. It's not a vote, is it?
They don't even have to vote on it, do you?
I'll just go to the question, or go to the...
Go to the motion to vote, that's right.
That was good, too. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the question has been called. If you're in favor of the resolution, vote yes.
Don't we vote at the end debate?
Oh, well, that was my question.
That was what we needed help on.
All right, we'll vote on the call for the question. Do the voice vote?
Yeah.
Be by voice vote. Call the roll, please. Yes means we will, if you vote yes, we will go back to the resolution, vote on the resolution as presented. If you vote no, continue the debate. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Akerd? No. Commissioner Allen? Commissioner Archer? I'm sorry? Commissioner Bennett? No. Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Absolutely yes.
Commissioner Carver? Commissioner Caskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
No.
Commissioner Cole? No. Commissioner Crowe?
No.
Commissioner Daly? No. Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller? No. Commissioner Robbins? No. Commissioner Stinnett?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mr. Chairman, there are 9 yes votes and 9 no votes.
Imagine that. Discussion will continue. Commissioner Crowe, you are recognized.
Yeah, I wanted to answer the original question as to why would you want to do something other than what the state law says. I would remind you back to about 10 minutes ago when there was a great expounding on how we needed to change the way we let people know about zoning changes, which I agree with it. It's outdated. I totally agree. But that's the same argument you would use as to why you would need to put more regulations. Sometimes the state's behind and the county has to go a little bit further. I would also like to say that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and that's why I wanted to bring this back for discussion. And that is, this only gives us the power, very limited power, my understanding, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it only gives us very limited power in the future if we see a need, such as to regulate fireworks in some way, then we bring it back. You have to have a supermajority, and then you vote on it, and then you can regulate. One of the things we continuously run into this county is somebody needs to do something about it. We can't. It's not in state law. We don't have the power. Well, right now we're getting ready to give ourselves a chance to get a little power to do some things. We can't do anything we don't vote on and get 2/3. So I strongly support this motion.
Commissioner Kaler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Commissioner Caskey. He evidently has researched this, reached out to CTAS, and I appreciate his due diligence. And it appears to me that there are some people in this room that are a little more familiar with this than I am. I'm faced with making a vote that references 8 Tennessee Code annotated points. I take that seriously. I'm not saying that Commissioner Caskey's wrong. He's saying what he thinks on the fireworks, but there's got to be more to it than that. So I've permission to ask the mayor a question. Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mayor, would it be appropriate, in your opinion, for us to ask our county attorney to thoroughly tell us what our authority would be in regards to things other than fireworks? I mean, is that something that you could pose him, that he come back to this commission and give us a little more detail and how broad that brushstroke is in regard to giving us further authority.
If this body gives me direction to take this to the county attorney and have him look at this and give you his assessment of exactly what this says as far as the power that it's given to you,
Well,
then I will
whatever.
be more than happy to do that.
Well, then I request that. I don't know if that needs to be in the form of a motion or not, but I would very much appreciate someone that we pay to give us a legal opinion. Thank you.
Commissioner Kaler, is that a motion to refer to the county attorney?
Yes, I put that in the form of a motion.
A motion to refer by Commissioner Kaler. We have a second by Commissioner Robbins. Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Daly, you're recognized. Yeah, on the motion to refer.
When we do get around to talking about these more, and like I said before, I don't think many of us would want to condemn property or,
Commissioner, this is on the motion to refer.
yes.
Commissioner Robbins, you're recognized.
My question was answered, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Bennett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to amend the motion to refer, and hopefully the motion maker and the second will accept that. So the other thing in this that I'd like to be studied, and I think it ought to go through the Budget Committee, we have discussed none of the financial impact of having the commission have police powers, and who are we going to have police the regulations that we put in place, how much it's going to cost the taxpayers, and all of those impacts that we'll have on the taxpayers of this community. So as part of that, I would say that this needs to also go through the Budget Committee so that they can study the financial impact that this will have on our budget.
Commissioner Kaler, are you? Commissioner Robbins, are you in agreement?
Yes.
Very well.
Sorry, Mayor.
Commissioner Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to make the point, once again, we do not have a county attorney, but I do believe we should refer this to the mayor's attorney. Thank you.
Commissioner Caskey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Without the County Powers Act, this body, the mayor, and no one else has any ability to regulate fireworks, the sale or use or anything. You have no authority. That falls directly under the state fire marshal, and he is the only one who can regulate it. The only thing they have to do is they have to notify the mayor and they have to get a license. Other than that, there is no regulation. So referring this came from CTAS. I mean, that's supposedly where we get our legal advice and stuff. So this is very limited. The citations of the TCA, those are limitations. Those are not giving you that authority. Those are limitations. And there's more limitations that I didn't even put in there. So it is a misunderstanding of how broad this authority is. It is not very broad, and I would be against referring it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Kaler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say in relation to what Commissioner Cassidy just said, I have personally talked to the representative of the Fire Marshal's office that represents and works Blount County. I am very confident in the State Fire Marshal's ability to police this issue well enough to allow us time to receive direction from the mayor's attorney. We have a, I don't know if a lot of people understand this. When we're talking about the State Fire Marshal, we're not talking about the State Fire Marshal in Nashville coming up. We're talking about representatives in this district. We have one that's Blount County and Sevier County, here every day, 5 days a week. And like I said, I've talked to him. I'm very confident. Now, I will say this. I'm not saying that we need to leave this open-ended. I agree that we definitely need to establish some sort of regulatory curriculum, if you will, something that we're going to be able to hang our hat on. But on the other side, I don't think that it is, and we need to do it in such a hurry that we can't allow the mayor's attorney to come back to us with a little more information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Akers, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There seems to be some confusion, so I would like to read a paragraph from this motion. It says, define, prohibit, abate, suppress, prevent, and regulate all acts, practices, conduct, businesses, occupations, callings, trades, uses of property, and all other things whatsoever detrimental or liable to be detrimental to the health, morals, comfort, safety, convenience, or welfare of the inhabitants of the municipality and exercise general police powers. Anybody that thinks that's just dealing with fireworks has stuck their head in the sand or didn't read that piece of paper. I'm sorry. I'm adamant, but that's what it says.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you all for making a motion to refer this to somebody about the power. Thank you.
Commissioner Robbins, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I read over this and the corresponding TCAs several times. What jumped out at me is what Commissioner Aker just read. And I understand, what will probably end up being the necessity of being able to do these things ourselves, or at least have a hand in it, but I can't support anything that appears to me to be so broad. Maybe I missed something, on some of the specifics, but I can't think about supporting anything this broad. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner French, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we're on the question of semantics, while I agree partly with Commissioner Miller, I would like to ask the mayor a question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, do you pay the attorney? Do you pay Mr. Garrett? All right, then for future reference, instead of going through this 42 times, we've been over it, I don't know how many years, why not refer to Mr. Garrett as the attorney for the county?
Thank you, Commissioner French. Commissioner Crowe, you recognize.
Second.
Commissioner Crowe, you recognize.
I have a request for the amendment makers.
Pardon?
I have a request for the amendment makers. I would like to see if they would consider putting this in their amendment. And that would be, I would like to see this brought back by the August agenda meeting. So I'm asking you to direct the mayor, since that was...
That would be a motion to postpone, I believe. We have a motion to refer.
Where are we referring it to?
We're referring it to the county's attorney.
To the county?
We're referring it to the mayor to get the county attorney's opinion on the resolution.
I think we're very unsure on what the amendment says, so we better go back and figure out what the amendment says.
I believe I just stated that, Commissioner.
A motion.
Do you have a motion to make? To the mayor and to the budget committee. Commissioner Kaler, you're recognized.
Never mind.
Are we done? See no other lights?
This is the motion to refer.
Be the motion to refer. Vote yes to refer, vote no not to refer.
You gonna vote?
Who?
You gonna vote?
I did.
Hit it again.
What's on mine?
It's not showing it.
I vote no. She can
Let me vote for you. Okay, how did you vote?
No.
Okay, that's where the confusion is.
Well, no, he just changed his vote on here.
Okay, all right, so,
Rick's gonna do mine down. Can we do yours? Yeah. And your vote is? Yes. Yes.
all right, I'm going to check on to make sure,
Okay.
okay, they're correct. Mr. Chairman, there are 17 yes votes and 1 no vote.
Motion to refer is approved. Item F8, resolution number 18-07-015, resolution of the Blount County Legislative Body requesting the county purchasing agent to issue an RFQ for insurance broker services for the 2019-2020 fiscal enrollment calendar year. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Commissioner Caskey, second Commissioner Carver. Commissioner Bennett, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to know where this resolution came from. Did it go through committee? I would assume this would have been through the HR committee, or what committee it would have come through.
Commissioner Caskey.
Commissioner, it didn't come from a committee. We just voted on rates for our insurance, and that didn't come from committee. I understand that the committee process is very important, but not everything comes from committees.
I move to refer this to HR committee.
Motion to refer, Commissioner Bennett, second by Commissioner Akerd. Commissioner, I see no lights.
Wait just a minute, let me get set.
Is to refer to the insurance committee.
If I said it, whichever one is the insurance committee, is that the same as HR? Is there a second? Insurance committee, sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner. You ready?
Yes. Ready to vote?
Okay. See no lights, please vote.
I can vote for you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there are 15 yes votes and 3 no votes.
Item is referred. Turn the chair back.
Number 10
Yep.
or number 9? Number 9. Number 9.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is F9, resolution number 1807. The 016. I still have a 015 up.
No, not the next one.
18, 7, 16. That's the Lord.
Yeah, no, I don't. I have 15 up here. There we go. Resolution number 1807016, resolution to amend the zoning map of Blount County, Tennessee from S suburbanizing to I industrial for a 21.01 acre tract of land located off Abrams Road, Rockford, Tennessee. Property is identified on tax map 027B, Group A, parcel 001.00. Chair will stand for a motion. Commissioner Lewis moves.
Second.
Commissioner Carver seconds. Is there discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote to forward or not forward.
Mr. Chairman, there are 16 yes votes and 2 no votes.
That item will be forwarded to the commission. Next item of business is F10. Chair will entertain a motion to forward Resolution 18-07017, a resolution to amend the zoning map of Blount County, Tennessee from S suburbanizing to I industrial for 2 tracts of land on Air Base Road, Louisville, Tennessee. Commissioner Lewis moves. Commissioner Stinnett, was that Stinnett? Commissioner Stinnett seconds. Is there discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote forward or not forward.
Mr. Chairman, there are 18 yes votes.
Motion carries. That item will be forwarded to the commission. Next item is F11, I think. Chair will entertain a motion to forward Resolution 18-07018, a resolution to amend the zoning map of Blount County, Tennessee from R1 Rural District 1 to S suburbanizing for 4 tracts of land located at and near Pollard Valley Road, Maryville, Tennessee. Commissioner Stinnett moves. Is there a second? Who's that? Push a little button on this. Commissioner King seconds. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote to forward, not forward.
Mr. Chairman, there are 12 yes votes and 6 no votes.
That motion carries. That item will be forwarded. The next item is announcements. The Veterans Affairs Committee will meet tomorrow, July 11th at 4:30 p.m. in the Blount County Courthouse, room 315. There is a special call Corrections Partnership Committee meeting on Thursday, July 12th at 5:30 p.m. in the Blount County Courthouse, room 430. The HR Committee will meet next Tuesday, July 17th at 5 p.m. in the Blount County Courthouse, room 430. There will be an Information Technology meeting Thursday, July 19th at 6 p.m. in the Blount County Courthouse, room 430. The regular commission will meet next Thursday, July 19th at 7 p.m. in the Blount County Courthouse, room 430. And that's a lot. Up on here. Commissioner Miller, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say this evening Commissioner Monroe wasn't able to attend. She's been given the great honor of being asked to speak in New York City today in the Rural Justice Conference Center at John Jay College. It's for the criminal justice in New York. And she was asked to speak to this organization, which have throughout the United States, these journalists get together and people that have been studying the criminal system that we have in the rural areas, their input and how they can make things better throughout the country. So it's a great honor for this commission to have had a commissioner chosen to be able to take part in this. So I just think I can't applaud Tana enough for all her efforts and her hard work for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Seeing no lights, the next item is public input on items not on the agenda. Please come forward, state your name and the district you live in.
My name is Patty Larimer-Young, and I'm from District 8. And I just want to say that we just spent some time listening to you all talk about this whole thing with regulating fireworks. I almost wanted to laugh because when it was illegal, it was impossible to regulate it. We had to call the police so many times to come out. They tried to help. We own an equestrian facility and a children's camp in Maryville. I have been a Maryville school teacher for 34 years in Maryville City. I love it here. It is the peaceful side of the Smokies, but it isn't if fireworks are legal. And When I woke up in the morning, I had people calling me saying, Patty, how was it at your farm? How is my horse? Horses were running all over the place. People had horses running through fences. People in the city had people throwing fireworks out of their windows. I wanted to say that I was so upset. I did contact the mayor's office, had some really good information on who to get in touch with, and I appreciate you, Mr. Bowers, for being so professional and helping me understand. But, you know, I understand more about it, that it was banned in the 1940s. I think the ban should still go back, and I want it to be put on the agenda in a further time to put that ban back into effect, because I don't think you can regulate fireworks. It was a nightmare, and it will be another nightmare on New Year's. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? That concludes tonight's agenda. If there is no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Hearing no objection, we're adjourned.